I can't remember what it was he said he did. He said he didn't do it, but his girlfriend had seen him doing something he shouldn't have been doing.
His girlfriend disagreed.
Yeah, she disagreed. And
he did that shit.
The way he put it, I can't remember because it was years ago, but the way he put it, it sounded like he definitely done it. It was something like, I said I was going to smack her around, but I didn't do it. You know, and she believed me on that. So he got thrown out and he had no money. And he was looking for people to smoke weed with. So he would just find the next poor bastard that walked in the room, which in this case was me. Mm-hmm. I need someone to smoke a blunt with me today. He was like, oh, fuck, yeah, that sounds right. Then it turns out I'm paying for everything.
You paid for the blunt?
Yeah, I paid for everything. And we're going and walking around Harlem looking for, people to sell us weed, which is, it's not exactly dangerous, but it's kind of like, a little bit uncomfortable.
It's a little sketchy.
Yeah, there were a couple of blocks that I was walking down and this guy turns around and says, whoa, that's a crack block. And like a guy would friendly point me in another direction, so that was kind of nice of them.
Some guide on the street corner, don't come down
yeah. Just saying, not this one. Walk around. That's kind of cool of them.
Yeah, that sounds like a good experience.
Yeah, it was an interesting last few days.
Those are the kinds of experiences Americans never have in New York. Sure. Maybe we're too connected with like the culture and such, or whatever,
Yeah. Well, anyway, a couple of days later, I met some like Australian boys and some German boys and some French guys, and we were just like spending time in New York. And my last day there, I go back to the bedroom, which is a shared 16 room, with a couple of them, and all the lockers had been broken open. So their passports were missing, phones were missing, cameras were missing. And this fella was missing, right? He'd obviously robbed the place, but I had not had enough money to leave a deposit for a padlock, so I couldn't use a locker, so all my shit was hidden under my mattress. I was fine.
Shit.
How's that?
Man, that's good.
Yeah. That was just one of those lucky breaks.
Yeah, that's massively lucky. So he like what, cut all the other padlocks?
Well, yeah, he'd broken all of the locks. I don't know how he did it. The doors had no damage. This was obviously someone who had experience of removing locks. And then he disappeared. Like, we never saw him again. I left the next day. But it was interesting because loads of passports were missing. So the Germans went to their embassy. It was like a Saturday or something. They were back within the hour with temporary permits to travel. You can now leave the United States and you can enter Germany with this, no problem. The Australians got told, come back on Monday. We're closed. And the South Africans couldn't get anyone on the phone.
Dude, I was less than impressed by the American embassy in Shanghai.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It was just filled with Chinese people.
Right.
Yeah.
What, actual Chinese people?
Yeah.
Really?
With red passports.
Wow. Oh, looking for visas.
Yeah, I presume so.
Okay.
But, like, when you walk in, you imagine that there'll be separation. Like, Americans go this way, Chinese go this way. I went into the office where I'm just handing in paperwork to get a new passport.
Yeah.
It's like 200 Chinese people in there.
Right. So you had to wait in a queue?
Yeah, I waited for like 4 hours to drop off paperwork.
U.S. citizen.
Goddamn bullshit. I'm like, my tax money's paying for this?
Yeah, right.
That's probably the first time I ever became like, what's the word? Like resentful, like, or use that excuse, or use that line.
Right,
like, my tax money is paying for this? I barely pay taxes. I haven't made enough money to pay taxes in a long time.
That's nice. Yeah, because you guys have to pay tax even in China, right?
Yeah, in
or
both
anywhere
countries.
else in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's foreigners who are always who always misquote the law in the tax code. And they're like, if you're a resident of China or if you're living in China, you don't have to pay taxes unless you make like $90,000, something like that. No, but you have to spend consecutive 330 days in that country. So, like, if I leave for 1 day and come back to China, then that's not a consecutive 330.
Right.
And it doesn't apply for me. And so I still have to pay tax. But I make fuck all money, so I get over there and I'm like, hey, I made, $200 this year.
But obviously
I still pay 35%.
But obviously you do make more than $200 a year.
No, yeah. So I end up... I make like $800 or something like that a month at the university. And so I always get a statement from my boss, and I bring that back, because America's so sketchy. I'm always afraid that the G-Man is going to come to my door and fucking execute me or something. You owe us $15. Bang!
So you need a piece of paper that says this is how much.
You don't really need it, but
it's useful to have.
But one day, if you needed it and you didn't have it, you'd probably be fucked.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I just keep it for my records. And so I think I end up making like $11,000 a year or something like that, which, like $32,000 is the poverty line.
Really?
Something like that. Okay. Or if you're single, I think it's 28.
Okay.
But if you're in a family, or if you're married, I think it's like 32 or 34, and then if you're married, it's like 36 or 37.
I guess that varies massively from state to state, though. Obviously.
No, that's national. We're talking about federal income tax.
So if I lived in Idaho by myself, I couldn't survive on $28,000.
No, you certainly could. It depends. Yeah, it depends where you're living. Sure. And one of the things that annoys me is when people talk about minimum wage.
Yeah.
And it's always the people who are living in fucking San Francisco or like New York City. They're always bitching about minimum wage. Like, I can't live on $12 an hour. It's like, you're not supposed to live in Manhattan on $12 an hour. Fuck off to some cheaper place. Yeah, like everyone else does. Stop demanding more money. Sure. For flipping burgers in Manhattan.
Right. It's true.
Yeah, I got no sympathy for people who want to live in fucking Los Angeles who make $30,000 a year.
Right.
There's plenty of places in the country where you can live an amazing life for $30,000 or $40,000.
I would think so. Yeah. So is
West
Maryland
Virginia
one of them?
No, Maryland's not one of them. Maryland. Well, the stuff that you live by, like food and such, is actually pretty reasonable.
Yeah, American food is cheap.
Yeah, there's a lot of grocery stores. There's this one that opened a little while ago that my parents love. It's called Oli or something like that, and it doesn't make sense. It's inconceivable. Because, like, you go to the normal grocery store and a gallon of milk is $3.20 or something. And you go to Only and it's like 75 cents.
Whoa.
You know, a dozen eggs is like $2 over there. It's like 30 cents at Only.
Well, how does that work?
I think they're just not marking everything up insanely. I mean, there's like no employees in there. And like everything's like still in its packaging and stuff like that. It's not a very pretty looking store.
Sure. They haven't gone for the customer experience.
No, they're just cheap as shit.
Okay,
yeah, right. I'm okay with that though.
Yeah, that's fucks.
Yeah. So it's just the houses. You know, you pay like $1 million for a townhouse, a couple million for a house.
Well, they had for the first time, probably about a year ago, a former council house, which is what you guys would call state housing, went for over £1 million in a nice part of London. So it's got 5 rooms, 3 up. A bedroom, bathroom, another bedroom, living room, kitchen, dining room, all in one.
Goddamn.
Downstairs and then downstairs toilet is over £1 million.
So when you say state house, what does that mean?
It means that the government built it and used to rent it to poor people. But
okay, not anymore.
Poor people have all been long moved out to the outer regions.
The poor people have millions of pounds now.
No, they never owned the house.
It's that inflation.
They got moved off to like god awful cities in the north of England, like Stoke, Luton. That's not in the north of England. And the prime real estate got taken back because that's worth obviously
a lot of money.
Yeah.
I was talking to a British person the other day, and I didn't realize that like there is no such thing as like out in the country in England. Right?
No, really.
And so the cheapest place you can live is sort of in between the country and the city.
Yeah.
Because in the city it's really expensive, then it gets cheaper, and then it gets more expensive because you're paying to get away from people.
Yes.
And getting away from people, I imagine, is pretty difficult in England.
It is. We don't have that much space. Yeah. Especially, although...
Why are there 65 million people in the country? It seems like a bad idea. It seems like they should have hard capped it at 10.
10 million? Yeah. That might not be enough. But yeah, 65 million. The sad thing is, the thing is as well, basically what you were talking about with New York and San Francisco is the same. People complain about being crowded, but everybody lives in the southeast of England. Mm-hmm. Everybody lives in London. Everybody lives in Essex. Everybody lives in Kent. Nobody wants to live in... If you went to the northeast of England, if you were willing to live in the desolate, barren, no job, awful weather...
I struggle to imagine it's that much worse weather, or...
It's pretty fucking
or
bad.
Desolate and barren.
You have no idea. I'm
imagining like Mad Max, like...
yeah, you wouldn't be far wrong. Mad Max with rain.
Desert. yeah. Mad Max in a jungle.
Mad Max with rain. Like, it's... I've only been to the northeast once, and I was driving through it. I got a bus once.
And you almost didn't make it back?
I got a bus once from London to Edinburgh. It's about 9 hours, give or take. And when we got to like the northeast of England, there's just miles in every direction where it's just flat scrubland. It's raining all the time. You can't see anything. There's no houses. There's no sign of habitation. It's probably been like that.
So is the land there pretty cheap? You should buy buy up some land
but
up
what
there.
the fuck am I going to do with that? Like,
I don't know. Get creative.
Like in Wales, my friend sold... Well, I don't know how. He like inherited... he's got roots in Wales. He inherited some scrubland on a Welsh hill in like mid Wales, like an acre's worth of scrubland on a hill.
Sounds nice.
He sold it for about £8,000. Like it was worth absolutely.
At least
nothing.
hold it. Do you pay property taxes?
Probably.
Yeah, probably. England.
Yeah. There's a lot of tax in England. I mean, minimum wage people pay tax, 10%.
Ruthless.
It's brutal. Yeah.
Ruthless.
Yeah. So yeah, like England is a much more tax-friendly society, and
tax-friendly.
Yeah, and we don't get anything for our money. Like services in England are absolutely fucking appalling.
Yeah. Well, I always say that to my Chinese students. I'm like, because I teach American history class, and I'm always telling them how Americans fucking hate paying taxes, and Americans hate our government.
Sure.
And they'll always ask like, why do you hate paying taxes so much? Well, I'm like, well, first of all, none of you fuckers work. Even though you're all like 20, 21 years old, you've never had a job yet.
Yes.
Lazy pieces of shit.
Yeah.
Anyway. And I'm like, well, you look out the window in China, and especially in Wuhan, like every 5 years, the entire city has been destroyed and rebuilt. And that's your tax money hard at work. I fucking look out the window in America, and I could live in the same city for 100 years, and it would never change.
Right.
And you're still paying taxes.
Sure.
Where's that money go, though?
Absolutely.
It's just fucking gone.
Yeah.
It just disappears.
Well, I think a lot of it goes in the army, right?
Dude, a fraction.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's quite a lot.
Well, it's like we get like $4 trillion a year, or like 3.5.
Okay.
And like 600 billion goes in the army.
Okay.
So where is
the rest going?
Yeah, exactly. Where is the rest going? That's a great question.
Bailouts for failing mega corporations.
At least we can look at things and we can see the result of the army expenditure.
Right.
We can look at all the destroyed cities and dead people and be like, that's where the money went. That at least you can point to it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we're behind you on that because we were involved in Afghanistan and Iraq as well. No, I mean, a lot of our money went on that too. But then bailouts, 500 billion British pounds was given to essentially insolvent banks around the same time that America did the same thing.
Yeah. MBS crisis.
Yeah. I mean, that's 500.
It's a big number.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
It's a big money. Yeah. Big money.
And I remember the day it happened just thinking, well, that's my future then. I better move to China.
There's a weird thing about like America and in England, I presume as well. I've never lived in England, although I've visited. The quality of life is without a doubt very high.
Yeah.
However, unless you're going to very, very aggressively pursue wealth and like very aggressively pursue being a rich person, you're just always going to be poor.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with America. Like the quality of life is undoubtedly better than China. The middle class American lives better than most people on Earth in the history of the human race.
Easily.
And that's again, especially Europeans.
Yeah.
They like to say, "Oh, Americans, you're involved all over the world, fucking up countries. How can you live with yourself?" And I always tell them, the average American just doesn't give a fuck. They live such a comfortable life. They don't care about anything that happens outside of their like fucking family room.
Sure.
Stuffing pizza in their face and smoking weed and playing with dogs and they live on fucking 20 acres that they bought for $1 out in the middle of fucking Midwest. In the middle of goddamn nowhere.
Sure.
And they got fucking high-speed internet and they got clean water and they got good food.
I mean, I would say facilities in the UK are like roughly, certainly in England, I don't feel qualified to comment on the other parts, but I'd say they're roughly the same as in America. Like the internet is good.
Yeah.
Obviously the water is clean. The roads are fine.
Toilets don't work so well.
Trains are shit.
The toilets in Ireland and England are not the best. And water pressure's not great.
Okay.
It always upsets me taking showers. My whole family bitches about taking showers when we go to England.
Yeah, I think that's got a lot better. I grew up.
The water is just dripping out. I grew up. Like, this is bullshit.
I grew up with the worst shower imaginable.
Or if you just take like a medium-sized shit, it's
yeah, but an American's medium-sized shit.
Yeah.
I once managed to block a toilet in Arkansas. That was a moment of pride.
Nice. That takes a lot of work.
But the quality of life, I would say, is not as high. Like we were more densely packed in areas that people would want to live in. You can't live on your 20 acres of beautiful Montana, Midwest farmland that you bought for $1.
I went to college in Montana. It's beautiful.
You live on your acres of Welsh scrubland in the rain.
You can buy like thousands of acres if you want.
Sure, the French have got a similar thing with space to the Americans. If you go to the south of France, they are living a really nice lifestyle.
I was just in Nice a little while ago.
Right.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah,
there.
love it.
Fucking gorgeous.
Love it. Yeah.
I wonder, should I buy some property in the south of France?
Could you afford property in the south of France?
I certainly can't, but I'll work it out. I'll go to France, I'll shake some hands.
Sure.
You know.
Speak some French, I love that.
Before you know it, I'll be fucking a politician there.
That's the last thing you want. They have a history of violence against politicians.
No, I'll be the American politician that everyone loves.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there's bound to be one at some point.
Who knows? But what was I talking about? Americans just don't give a fuck.
That's true.
It's hard to justify caring about the outside world when you live a very, very comfortable life.
Absolutely. I mean, it's completely understandable. There's no reason to care about it, right? You have to actively want to.
Yeah.
Most people aren't going to do that after working for 8-10 hours a day.
Exactly.
You get home, you can watch game shows, or you can go and research like drone strikes in Pakistan.
Yeah,
what
exactly.
What spend your time doing?
Yeah, definitely lasagna and have sex with my fat wife and have 7 or 8 beers and smoke some weed and go to bed.
Get up the next morning and do it all again.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the life.
That is life for most people. Of course,
that's the life. It's like, I don't know how much you travel, especially like really poor places, but when you grow up in America, it's easy to like resent how fat and lazy people are. Sure. And then when you see really horrible places in the world, you realize being fat and lazy is the best existence you can hope for. It's the best. You know,
I'd definitely rather be fat and lazy than living in a Phnom Penh slum.
Yeah, living in like just a concrete box. Yeah. With nothing.
Yeah, living in my tuk-tuk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Dude, I went to the Dominican Republic, and me and my girlfriend got off the cruise. This is years and years and years ago, and we took a tuk-tuk, and we just told them take us to a nice beach, and we got in the tuk-tuk, and when they like the ship wouldn't dock, so you had to like take shuttles from the ship to the island, which I thought was a little sketchy. Sure. So because once you get off the shuttle, you're like on the pier and you look back, and like the giant cruise ship is just like a dot in the distance. You're like, oh man, we're fucked. We're so far away. And there's hundreds of tuk-tuks just waiting for you, and they're all like yelling at you. You know, so you just pick one at random. And we drive off, and the poverty is unspeakable. I mean, just every single road is just lined with hundreds of people just sitting in the grass, just doing nothing all day. And it's just like concrete hovel, like sheet metal hovel, concrete hovel, sheet metal hovel, and like 30% of the population has guns. And it's just shockingly poor people walking around with AK-47s and shotguns and stuff. And every now and then, some of them will be wearing uniforms, but most of them aren't. And even the ones wearing uniforms, like, is he actually an official somebody or something?
If he is, does that matter?
Yeah, does it matter? Yeah. So this guy's driving this tuk-tuk, and I'm like, you know, what are the chances that we're going to make it back to the boat? But yeah, I think they expected tourists at that beach, though. We ended up getting to the beach a couple hours before everyone else. Everyone else, I guess, went on tours of the island. We couldn't be fucked. But when we got there, there was a shitload of cops on the beach.
Okay, just keeping things orderly.
Exactly. Okay. All of them with assault weapons and body armor. It was sketchy.
Wow, man. I didn't realize Dominica had such a gun problem.
Well, Dominican Republic kind of has it has a reputation for being sort of sketchy, right?
Well, that's what I always it's heard. All just the Caribbean. Like, yeah, you guys, Americans probably know more about it than me. I always thought Jamaica was the troubled one.
Yeah, I heard that as well. I've never been there. I went to Haiti, but we were just inside of a resort. So.
Speaking of Haiti, yeah, that's meant to be an absolute shithole.
Yeah.
Isn't that one of those shithole countries Trump referenced?
Well, at this point, I think when he says shithole country, he means everywhere except America.
Okay. No, but he said, why can't we get more people from Norway? So I think Norway's alright too.
Norway's not bad. No, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Okay, cool. Like, I had one of my ex-girlfriends went to the Dominican Republic without me, which tells you how well our relationship was going. And she didn't mention anything like that. I'm guessing she stayed in a nice tourist resort and didn't leave this tourist resort the whole time.
Probably not.
So yeah. But you didn't have any trouble though.
No, it's pretty dope. We got to the beach. Like I said, we got there super early. There's a bar on the beach that hadn't opened yet, and they like kind of panicked when we got there. Like, oh fuck, they're here early. And they just cut the top off of a pineapple and then gave that and a bottle of rum to my girlfriend.
Nice.
And then they just brought an entire case of liter bottles of Presidente beer to the beach for me. And they didn't even ask for money or anything. And like, you know, a bunch of people come up and they're hawking all sorts of crap. and buy some crap for them. Bought some Cuban cigars. Sit on the beach drinking beer, smoking some Cuban cigars.
Nice.
Fucking great. It was a great day.
Yeah, sounds cool. Yeah, I was in the place I've seen the most cops was actually in Coney Island in New York. I went to Coney Island just to go and see the Wonder Wheel from the Warriors.
Oh, yeah.
I used to love that movie when I was younger. And I can't believe how many fucking police officers there were. They were absolutely everywhere. Yeah. Like, there weren't even that many tourists to rob in the first place.
No. And America just loves cops.
Yeah, maybe. And there were also hot dog places called Nathan's.
Yeah,
everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. You could not turn your eyes around without seeing one.
Yeah. Did you have one?
I did. Yeah, it was okay. It was pretty good.
I think hot dogs are overrated.
Well, I saw that other American Brian, who now lives in Shanghai, mentioned something about you can't put ketchup on your hot dog in Chicago. And I actually found a sign the other day that said it's considered bad manners or...
Really?
Yeah, it's considered rude to put ketchup on... I mean, if I'm having a hot dog, I want to put some damn ketchup on.
Goddamn right, yeah. And I want to cut down the middle and burn.
Don't want to put mayonnaise.
Well, I don't know. Chicagoans, I think they take pride in doing things a little strange.
I see. Third city syndrome.
Doing things like unusually. I've never had a legitimate Chicago pie pizza. Okay. But they look fucking great, and one day I'll get out there.
They do look really good.
They look ruthless. Yeah. They look unnecessary, but in a good way. You know what I miss? I miss ordering pizza, and it gets to my house hot.
Sure.
Like Domino's in America, it gets to the house, and it's like, it will burn your mouth if you're not careful. Every pizza I've ever
don't get Domino's down here, isn't it? Like Papa John's is just not as good.
No, and actually, I think the Pizza Hut here is pretty good.
It's better than the UK, definitely.
Well, so did you grow up eating Pizza Hut?
Yeah.
Is it just me, or did Pizza Hut jump onto this health kick bullshit years ago, back when we were kids? Because when we were kids, it was so unhealthy. It was like the crust was like a greasy sponge that was like kind of crispy and delicious. And then it became this like bready material years later, and it still is that bready material. But here in China, the pizza is that old school nasty crust that's so good, and like you squeeze it, and the grease just like runs down your hand.
I know your means. Okay, sure. Maybe they did. Maybe they just thought they could save money.
Yeah.
I started going to Pizza Hut when they used to do a buffet.
Yeah.
Which they only brought in when I was about 17. I started going every Tuesday. They used to do it every Tuesday. Now they do it every day. It's all anyone goes to Pizza Hut for.
All you can eat Pizza Hut is a disgusting idea.
It is really filthy. You try and do at least 8 slices.
Oh god. Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm losing my appetite as I get older.
Oh,
like yesterday, I had 2 plates of pasta and I felt like shit.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think like the hot weather does a lot to kill my appetite. I don't eat as much in the summer.
Yeah. Also, the hot weather is the best incentive to get thin.
Sure.
Because
got to be beach body ready.
Well, I don't give a shit about the beach. I just don't want to be so fat and sweaty all the time.
Sure.
You know, got all these fat bits rubbing together on a day-to-day basis. It's not good. It's not good.
I sometimes get it between my legs.
Yeah, I get that. Oh god, I get that all the time, every day. That seems like a good place to do an intro. Thank you, everybody, for coming back to another episode of Bullshit and Video Games. We're here with our special guest today, Nathan Jones. That's correct, right?
That's right.
How you doing, man?
Good.
Yeah,
How are you?
Having a good day?
Yeah. It's been fun.
Blue sky out there. Right.
Well, I say in Wuhan,
sort of.
I say in Wuhan, we only get 7 nice days a year.
Yeah.
I guess this is one of them. Better make the most of it.
Yeah. Well, good thing you're indoors talking to me.
I am, and then from here I've got to go indoors at my workplace and plan.
You work today?
I'm not supposed to, but we've got some big outdoor event tomorrow on Han Street, and I'm the host. And it's been planned at very short notice.
That sucks!
I know.
Why do you work at a legitimate place? Why do you work at a real job? I don't understand foreigners who actually work in China.
I mean, it's not so much work, to be honest. I teach adults, I don't teach kids, so...
Wait, are you one of those people who actually got a good job outside of the university?
Yeah, I mean, my job is okay.
Okay, because every now and then I meet somebody who, like, I work at a private school, and I'm like, oh, that sucks. And they're like, no, I work 1 hour a month, and...
No, I work full-time
I get paid
hours.
$28,000 or some bullshit like that.
Okay, so I got a bad job.
Then your job sucks.
I got a real job. But I get it's very, very easy. There's very little planning involved at this point, because I've been doing it for a while. There's no marking. their feedback.
This sounds like desperation. Like a man digging holes, but they bought us new shovels.
Very good. No, basically,
it almost never rains.
I teach 4 hours a day, and then for the rest of the day, I'm basically left alone. I usually read books. Okay. And that suits me pretty well. So, and I visa and all that bollocks. If I have any kind of problem whatsoever, everything's sorted out for me. I'm too lazy to be independent.
But wouldn't you rather just work 1 hour a week?
Of course I would. Of course I would. But then I don't know what I would do. I'd probably just drink too much.
Well, you can do other things like podcasts and write books and you know, stare at the wall until your eyes bleed.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing I would tell myself I would do. Podcasts, definitely. Writing books instead of reading them. But what I would really do is I would go to the bar.
Just drink all day?
I think I probably would.
Yeah, you just give into the desire.
I like being kept busy. It's definitely good for me.
Yeah. I think I'm done with drinking. It like not as when you say that, that's such a loaded thing. It makes it sound like I'm a ruthless alcoholic. It's just boring to me now.
Sure.
It's just lost its appeal.
Well, of all the like drugs that could be legal, it's the worst possible choice.
It's the least enjoyable and most detrimental. Yeah. It's by far,
Yeah, it's an endurance getting through it as well. It's not like you can just do a little bit and then have a nice time. You got to keep going all the time.
And how's your body holding up as you get older and older? Because I went from peak to absolute zero in like a 6-month period. If I have 3 beers, I'm hungover the next day.
Oh right, no, I can usually get through hangovers, but I am falling apart for sure. Like my breathing is terrible. Sometimes I catch myself wheezing. I don't even smoke anymore.
You don't smoke anymore?
No, so I should be worried about that.
Well, that's when we were talking about quality of life, man. Like this whole country is just under a blanket of
it really is.
Of death.
It really is. I've been out in rural Anhui and rural Henan. You know, on idea of how rural on Tantan I could get 3 matches. Not 3 matches, 3 options.
Yeah.
1 match.
Hey, it's 33%.
So that's how far out in the middle of nowhere I was. Yeah. And if you looked into the distance, we're quite high up in the mountains. If you looked into the distance, you could see this like kind of milky cover. It's too low to be cloud. It must be smoke.
Of course.
It must be.
Yeah. You know, an argument that I have with a lot of people is there's always like the China apologists, and those are all the foreigners who have overcommitted to China. You know, like they own a business, they have like 6 half Chinese kids, and they've been studying Chinese for the last 9 years, and now at this point they have no choice. They have to be supportive. One of the things they always say is when you talk about the pollution, they'll say, "Oh, well, you've seen pictures of London back from the 1800s, and it looks like shit." The difference is that the pollution in London in the 1800s was almost exclusively coal because people were burning coal to heat their house.
That's correct.
And there's a difference between the smoke coming from a burning like material like wood or coal. Human beings have been breathing that in since the dawn of fire. There's a difference between that and the smoke or the pollution coming from petroleum factories and things like this. And like the argument that this pollution is the same as that pollution is ridiculous.
It is.
They didn't even have plastic back then.
It's absolutely right, and I have the same thing from my students. Often tell me, "Well, London is just as bad," and I tell them, "No, it's really not."
No,
like
it's not even close.
No, it's nothing like it. Yeah. It's completely different, and. Yeah, as well, they don't seem to notice. Some of the local people don't seem to notice that it is pollution. They'll tell me things like it's a very weather day.
It's a very
weather day. That's how good teacher I am.
Much English.
Yeah. And I'll say, I don't know if that is weather. And they'll be like, well, what else could it be? Oh, never mind.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It feels like I'm dying.
Yeah, sometimes.
When I'm in China, it's all the time.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. Like, how are you tired of drinking water from a bottle?
I should probably buy some cups.
I'm pretty tired of it. Buy some cups?
I bought some glasses, but I don't use them.
Yeah, why? Why?
It's just washing up, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I use all disposable shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think I'm going to do the same thing when I go home, honestly.
It's just easier.
Yeah, exactly. What does it cost? A couple bucks a month?
Right.
And never have to do dishes? Fuck. Sounds like a good deal to me.
Yeah, I mean, something I love about China is I can just eat out all the time. Mm-hmm. Like, I never, ever cook. My kitchen is disgusting, frankly. I've been in there twice. Especially with Ulama deals, somehow it's cheaper than the components. Right. You know, you can get a meal for like 9 kwai or something like that, and it's got like chicken and pork and rice, and it's got lettuce, and it's got kimchi in it. It's got like... And it's been delivered. Yeah, and it's been delivered. And it's been delivered in like 20 minutes. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. This thing costs like $1.40. Yeah. Yeah, that's something that's great about China. Like, let's give it its due. Like, food prices.
Yeah.
Can't argue with them.
Yeah.
You're an American. Do you like Chinese food?
Well, I like it. I just fucking hate eating it every day.
Okay.
There's just no... There's a diversity of flavors, but there's an incredible lack of diversity of ingredients.
And cooking techniques as well are quite simpler.
Yes, there's like 2 cooking techniques. There's steamed and fried.
Yes.
And every now and then there's a little bit of boiling going on. And then ingredients-wise, there's like 6 ingredients that they use. And then that's it.
I mean, I agree with that. They also consider it like the Chinese are under the impression, or at least the ones I speak to are under the impression that Chinese food, you'll have heard this phrase before, I'm sure, it's very complicated.
Yes, they say that all the time.
But it's really not. Like,
well,
let me explain every single dish to you. We take some vegetables. Yeah. Take some meat. We take some sauce.
Yeah.
Take some rice or some noodles.
Yeah.
Job's good.
And then fry it or steam it.
And then fry it or steam it. Every single dish is
the same. And a shitload of oil.
We don't even cure the meat. We don't smoke the meats. They don't do anything special with them.
Nothing gets roasted. Nothing gets brined. Nothing.
Right. Very little baking.
Yeah.
It's really not complicated. What is complicated is Chinese formal dinner culture.
Yes.
You know, where we all have to make the toasts and we have the baijiu. That is really difficult to understand.
My students, it's rare that I offend them, but I offended them last week because we were talking about traditions and customs and such, and they were asking me about American stuff, and like, Americans have no traditions and customs.
Very
few. And I told them, I was like, I feel lucky coming from a country that's so young because we don't have all that bullshit weighing us down. I always say stuff like that to my students. I don't give a fuck how they feel. And they got really offended. And they were like trying to convince me that the traditions and customs and all that bullshit makes China a better country. Right. Like, they're better for it. And I'm like, no, you're never going to convince me. I don't give a shit. And at that point, I had actually recently had a very formal dinner where I didn't get to eat anything at the dinner because I spent the entire dinner toasting and saying all these Chinese phrases and you know, denying 500 cigarettes. And
yes.
Yeah,
I went for one, a very formal one recently, and it was with a guy who I like. He's kind of an older man, and I wanted to be respectful because he was paying, obviously. And I didn't know. Well, I'm not taking someone for an expensive dinner like in a formal restaurant. I wouldn't even know where a formal restaurant is. And I wanted to be respectful, but I just didn't know what to do. Like, he stood up to make a toast, and then he comes around the table and he chinks everyone's glasses. I mean, there's no one there I can follow.
Yeah.
Like, it was me and 2 of my colleagues who were foreigners, and then a local guy, but he'd been living in the UK and the US for decades, and he did not seem particularly worried about ceremony. He was on his smartphone the whole time.
Yeah. Well, at a certain point, I feel like you just say fuck it.
Yeah.
Like, for the formal dinner I went to, even just sitting down was a clusterfuck that had all the Chinese people arguing for 10 minutes because apparently whatever seat is most east, that's like the seat that the most prestigious person sits.
Oh, I see.
I was like, this is fucking dumb. Can't you guys all just agree this is dumb and abandon this?
This is very anti-American, or not anti-American, but opposite to what I would expect from America.
Yeah, America, you just
very little
down, eat your fucking food, shut the fuck up.
You say grace first.
No.
Okay, you don't.
Yeah,
godless heathens.
How many Americans say grace? What?
I live with an American. I live with an American family for
out in the Bible Belt.
No, they lived in England. I lived with them for about 10 months, and they said grace.
That's why they went to England. They thought, oh, you guys love God and Jesus.
Well, the reason they went to England is because the father worked for Honeywell, and it's like some sort of I think it's like an air manufacturing company.
Okay.
Like they make planes. I think it's got some ties to the military.
Honeywell. I thought it was gonna be like Hams.
It sounds more like it should be Hams.
Yeah.
And he was posted to England, so they're from Arizona. That's anyway. They
desert folk.
Desert people and all ginger.
Yep.
So how the fuck does that work?
Every day they're like, God, it's wet here, isn't it?
They were really horrified with the English language.
Yeah.
Like when they got to England.
You guys barely speak English.
When they got, no, not just that, but they were so non-swearing people.
Oh, yeah.
Like so non-swearing people. And then they walk around the streets in England. It was like, oh, fuck, you know, what's he doing, a mug? I think they were just like, I can't believe it. I walked down the street and the potty mouth.
Yeah, I bet that is how they sound. How much do you think Guy Ritchie movies influence how English people speak? Is you know, What percentage of English people speak with a Cockney accent and they've never been to London? That is where
everyone from where I live. Everyone from where I live.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a village, 3,000 people, very south coast of England, about 100 miles from London, probably about 100 miles from London.
Which is like 3/4 of the way across the country.
No, it's not. About an hour and a half drive. So yeah, most of the country. And anyway, everybody around there speaks with what's called a Mockney accent. So they all adopt like kind of and
isn't that shit so transparent?
Geezer and blinded. Yeah, but everybody does it. And then what's even weirder is you want to talk about movies having an influence. When I was 17, there was this movie called Kidulthood, which is about like wayward youth in London, kind of similar to Larry Clark's Kids in New York from the 90s.
Yeah, that's a fucked up movie.
That's a weird one where the American movie is actually darker than the British one. But
yeah,
anyway,
it's dark as fuck.
Anyway, like after that movie came out, the weekend it came out, everyone I knew went to see it because it was a movie for young people. And the next week, the Lexus of the playground had completely changed. Everyone was calling each other blood. Everyone was saying things like "nah, fam" and "pussyo," and all these words that they didn't even know 3 days ago were now just standard fare. So, like, you can see the influence movies have. Guy Ritchie, nobody talks like the characters in a Guy Ritchie movie, with the exception of Barry the Baptist, who was Lenny McLean, and
are you gonna fucking pay?
Are you gonna fucking pay? Hello, my son. You want a lollipop? And the guy, I can't remember his name.
Counting the fingers that you haven't got.
I can't remember his name. The guy who plays Bricktop, Alan something, I think, who's also a real Cockney geezer, like proper criminal. Most of Guy Ritchie's villains sound like what they are, which was privately educated people. I don't know, Tom. You look like you're fat, and you should be funny, but you're not.
What does privately educated mean?
It means their parents paid for their schools.
Oh, okay. I thought it was switched around. Public is private. Private.
So
public.
It's a little bit more complicated than that. The public, of course it is.
Why wouldn't it be?
The class system.
Yeah. Things can't be just simple.
The perversely named public schools are the extreme elite schools. So they're the ones that the landed gentry go to and the successful business class go to. So like Eton, Harrow, Winchester.
So like if a low class person walks in there, they'll like beat them with sticks or something like that. Right?
You hear about like bullying going on in these places, definitely. And then the like ones that people like myself went to would be private schools, which were people whose parents have got a few quid, but they're like more comfortable than rich. Comfortable but not rich. That's the way I would describe my.
I always assume a few quid in England is like those medieval movies where they just toss the vague bag of coins onto the table. Like, can my son go to this school? Well, what have you got? And then he just drops the bag of coins on the table. That should be sufficient.
Right.
We'll take him.
So that was, and then everyone else goes to what's called state school, which in America is what we call public school.
Okay, so
and
shit.
Probably everywhere else in the world would be called public school.
Yeah. And so is that school the most shit?
Typically.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on the area. Like, there's a real luck of the draw. But I've heard something like 1 in 9 people are privately educated in England. And obviously, so that means I went to a state college for A-levels, which is like 16 to 18, and I met lots of people there, and some of the stories I would hear of like things that would happen in state schools, I wouldn't want my kids to go through that.
Yeah,
you know, like real, like not like violence and just bullying and like assassination of people's character, which
cannibalism, necrophilia.
Never quite got that carried away. Every now and again there'll be a documentary on Channel 4 where they tell you that kind of thing is happening
every day.
But yeah, like I think American public schools also, you have like a friend of mine teaches in a school in North London, a state school in North London, and they have a police officer who is assigned to their school.
Yeah.
I believe that's common in cities in America too.
Yeah, in my high school we had like 7 full-time security guards, and we had a cop at the school every day, all day. Right.
So like that's just completely alien to my experience.
Yeah, just fights every single day, but it wasn't that violent. I always heard horror stories about the place. So I left New Jersey right before high school, right when, like, in the summer between 8th grade and 9th grade, my family moved to D.C. And I always heard horror stories about the high school in New Jersey, about people getting stabbed and shot and teachers being attacked and stuff like that. So, probably good that I didn't go there.
Yeah, that sounds, although you're a big guy, you'd probably be alright.
Yeah, you end up being a target when you're a big guy.
That's true.
You know, it's this thing where like a little guy attacks a big guy. If he loses, everyone goes, it's like, doesn't matter, he's small. If he wins, they go, he's a hero.
I get it. That's like prison mentality, dude. You feel this is happening in schools?
Hey man, it's not the public schools where you're from.
Private schools. Sure.
Public is where the aristocrats go, right?
Bizarrely. I don't know how they got that name. I did once read it.
It's just England. You guys just want to be different. Just desperate to be different.
Drive on the fucking wrong side of the road.
Yeah, you pieces of shit.
And similar to America, we use...
Why are all your roads so small as well?
It's not that our roads are small, it's that your roads are so big.
I mean, do you not like driving comfortably?
Well, American cars are just bigger than...
Yeah, everything in America is just bigger.
That's true.
It feels so comfortable. When I go to England and Ireland, everything feels like tight.
I can believe that. Believe that, if you come from America, everything will feel small in England and Ireland. What about in France?
No, I felt pretty comfortable in France, actually. Okay. I was shocked at how reasonable prices were in France for stuff. Like hotel rooms. We got really nice hotel rooms, really cheap. The flight, by the way, if you want to travel to France, go during the Chinese New Year holiday, the 2-week holiday. I don't remember which one that is. That's not New Year, right?
I think so. 2 weeks.
Okay, a national holiday.
Oh, okay.
National holiday.
October 1st.
Apparently nobody goes to France. And it was like a little bit cold. You wear a sweater and jeans, you're fine. But all of the tourist attractions were empty, and we got a flight there, both directions for like $500.
It's pretty reasonable. It's very reasonable.
It's outrageously cheap. Yeah, outrageously fucking cheap.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
What was I talking about?
I've been to France a few times.
Yeah, that's nice.
I didn't like Paris. I like the south of France very much. I would live there happily. I wasn't so keen on Paris.
We went to Paris and then Bordeaux and then Nice. And then back to Paris. We actually meant to go a whole bunch of different places, but this clusterfuck halfway through.
Sure.
Yeah, that was entirely my fault. So, thankfully we got to see a few things. We just never left the apartment in Bordeaux.
How did you move around France? Did you drive?
No, train.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it cheap?
Nope.
European trains are frightening. Yeah.
Well, so that was the clusterfuck. That was my fault. I checked the trains like 2 months beforehand, and it was like €8 from Paris to Bordeaux. I'm like, that's awesome. And then I get there, we didn't book.
€80.
Yeah, we didn't book in advance, and so it's like 150. Yeah, fucking bastards.
Yeah, it's the same in England. You can get a train from.
Europe is supposed to be famous for its trains and cheap travel and stuff.
Well,
that's horseshit.
That is complete horseshit. I don't know where that came from. Like. From London to Edinburgh on the train, I could have bought a car. That's why I got the coach. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to it. They're slow, fairly old, extremely unreliable.
Yeah, terrible organization. Yeah. Like we're in fucking France. We're in Paris. A lot of people speak English, and it was difficult finding things. Like, hey, where's this thing? It's fucked up when you ask an employee and they have to think about it. And like, where is that? I'm not sure. It's like, don't you work here?
I found the staff on the New York subway to be the most unhelpful bunch of dicks I ever met.
Yep, you're not getting any help in America.
They're really nice. They're really good at helping people. But in New York, they're just like so angry if you ask them anything.
Of course.
They're so pissed off. It's like, fucking hell, what are you getting paid for?
They're getting paid fuck all.
Probably.
But fuck them. I have no sympathy for people who resentfully do their job. Like Wuhan taxi drivers.
Yeah, there's some bad Wuhan taxi drivers out there.
They're so resentful of their work. But public transport in America is so shitty and it's so expensive.
It's terrible, yeah.
It's only
it's much cheaper to fly.
It's like 5 or 6 stops from where I am into DC. And it's like $12. It's ridiculous. And it's so low quality, it's shocking. The fucking train like rattles as it comes up.
Yeah, why is that? Why does no one invest? Like, surely America could make money from trains.
Surely lots of things could be done, but
it's true, isn't
it? In America, just nothing happens.
It's true.
Nothing ever happens. That's why we all just want to hang around and eat pizza and fucking get high and impregnate our wives and and just start accruing land. Yeah, that's my plan. I just want to become a land baron.
Well, that's a good plan.
Yeah. I want to get super fat, smoke a corncob pipe, and just go from door to door demanding the rent, and just have a giant gun in my waistline. Where's the rent for this month?
Okay, well, it sounds like it's good to have a plan.
That's the plan. Yeah.
So you're not performing at the comedy show this Saturday?
Saturday.
Yeah,
No.
Paddy Fields, why not?
Why not? Wasn't asked.
Okay.
I'll be on stage on the 7th. There's Comedy Center. Storm Shoe. I'm opening for him.
Where's that?
Karma. Yeah. Yeah, well.
I just worry about, like, that place gets raided all the time, apparently.
Dude, yeah. It's a sketchy place to be. And there's absolutely there's nothing surprising about if that place gets raided. No one can be surprised.
No.
It's a pretty sketchy place.
Yeah.
Well, it used to be Who Bar.
It did, which was illegal.
Extremely sketchy.
Yes.
It's like, I don't know what's the analogy there. A really sketchy place that you build a new sketchy place on top of.
Yeah, you build your house on the beach, it gets washed down by the tide, so you just build it again.
Yeah, you build another one.
And it's the same people running it, I believe.
I think it's different.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's different.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I only went to Who Bar.
I never went. I only went when it was Karma once, and I just thought this dodgy as fuck.
Sketchy, real sketch. Yeah. Well, there's some sketchy places like prison that feel safe for some reason. Like prison always
been there for so long, right?
Yeah,
and I think it probably
like
does have a license. Yeah. Which Karma does not. And there's another place in Jadalco called Mia. Have you ever been there?
No.
MIA, Missing in Action. It's a bar in an apartment building. So you go up to a floor in a regular apartment building and it's just a bar.
Is it nice?
No, of course it's not nice. It's like and they also do cards there.
There's like blood splatter on the walls.
No, it's not bad, but
don't worry about that.
It's not nice, let's put it that way. It's kind of like, kind of a prison Karma vibe. And you can play cards there as well, which is obviously probably not cricket.
Cards for money?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super illegal.
Yeah, so just...
You know what this country needs?
What's that?
Legal marijuana.
Oh, man.
The Chinese government needs to just a sweeping ban on alcohol and cigarettes and just replace it with weed.
Hey, where do I sign?
Exactly.
I'd be more than happy.
Man, this country would change overnight.
Yeah, great.
And it's probably good for your lungs, right? Smoking weed.
Probably better.
Yeah, exactly. You're filtering the Wuhan air through the weed.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy with that, but I can't see it happening.
No, that's definitely not going to happen.
No, they're saying that they're going to prosecute Chinese citizens who smoke weed in the States.
Yeah, like they were saying that if you go to a place like Canada where it's legal, they'll test you when you come back.
Yeah, and it's the same with South Koreans.
Yeah. Fuck, hell.
I know, it's invasive, isn't it?
It's rough. It's brutal.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think the conversation about weed, like, why is it illegal? It's overdone. I'm sick of it. It's played out.
Yeah. It's so I think it's been. There's no moral argument for weed being illegal.
Yeah, and
that has been won.
There's almost no health argument. Like, I think we can all agree 10-year-olds shouldn't get high.
We can agree that.
But beyond that, do what you want.
You're fucking right.
Yeah.
And cigarettes legal, alcohol's legal. The hypocrisy argument is obviously enormous. Mm-hmm. But the good news is that when I was growing up, when I was 17 and I was starting to get interested in these issues, it was an open question: would this battle ever be won? It has been won. What America does, the rest of the world will follow. It will just take. Never mind Asia, but the rest of the civilized world will follow. It just might.
Oh, so you mean England? Yeah, you guys seem real civilized over there.
It just might take some time. It won't happen tomorrow, but it will happen.
I saw a Winston Churchill meme where they replaced it with all the Cockney shit. Like, we'll have them on the beaches. We'll do them on the shores. I love that. Yeah. You guys seem real civilized.
We are extremely civilized.
A lot of spoonings going on over there.
There's some spoonings.
Some brutal spoonings.
England's the birthplace of civilization. Constitutional democracy, trial by jury, the steam engine. But,
But what have you done recently?
That's a good question. Brexit.
Oh yeah, you were telling me that you were going to tell me about the acronyms.
Yeah, sure. So you want to know about Tommy Robinson?
So I didn't know anything about Tommy Robinson except that he went to jail for something. Because I remember seeing the Free Tommy memes. And stuff.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I didn't know anything about him until just the other day. I watched a video of his rally getting attacked.
Sure. So Tommy Robinson is a former football hooligan, his background, and he was a middle...
So a pretty normal guy.
Yeah, it's not an unusual guy, from a town called Luton, which is... He owned, he's not a knuckle dragger, and he was not a complete fuck-up. He owned his own business.
A nice in-betweener.
I think he had a tanning salon. He was a working-class, middle-class guy, middle-class guy.
A business owner who would headbutt you.
He probably would. And anyway, he comes from a town called Luton, which is kind of the bedrock of Islamic extremism in the UK. So it's a heavily Islamic town at this point, and several people who've been involved in various terror plots have come from the same place, which is Luton. So the official story of how the EDL, which means English Defence League, started is Tommy Robinson and some of his mates are at a welcome home parade for some soldiers who are returning from Afghanistan or Iraq, wherever it was. And while they're there are some people from a group called something like Islam for UK, or one of these similar groups of, nutters, like lunatics, who were there protesting and disrespecting the soldiers. From that, Tommy Robinson and his mates decide they are going to lead a protest against Islamic extremism in the town of Luton.
Sounds pretty reasonable so far.
Okay, and they're going to hire all their football mates, or recruit all their football mates.
Hooligans.
Yeah, but football's not like that anymore.
It's not like that anymore. It's gentlemanly now.
It's not, but it's not what it was. So they get
Are you guys ever going to be good at football again?
What are we talking about? We're semi-finalists. So semi-finalists at the last World Cup.
Making fun of soccer.
So a group of them get together and they hang out, or they do a demonstration in Luton against this particular group, I believe, and it just really caught fire. For whatever reason, very quickly, this started happening all over the shop. And this group called the EDL, English Defence League, which only ever protested it only ever protested extremist Islam. Now, there's something that's kind of interesting about its founding, because there's a guy called Alan Lake, who was a banker of Jewish heritage in London, who's admitted to giving money for the EDL to get some of their things up and running.
Okay.
Who's he? Nobody who really seems to know. Why is he interested?
Mysterious.
Yeah, it's who introduced him to Tommy Robinson? I want to meet that guy. I want to meet the guy who introduced the guy with the money to the guy who's going to be our front man. Who is he?
It's probably like a mailman.
I would love to know. Anyway, the EDL started doing things that other right-wing groups have never done before. So they were the first, to my knowledge, not to be neo-Nazis. They are explicitly not neo-Nazis. In their first video, where they announced themselves to the world, they burned a swastika. And it's quite funny because they can't get it on fire at first.
Yeah.
But it's noticeable. And in the background, they've got signs saying things like, "We respect Israel's right to exist." Obviously, a neo-Nazi group is not going to do that.
Of course.
So you can see this is something that's a little bit different. Also,
quite a lot different.
Yeah.
If we're talking about Nazis.
Their early leadership, they had a guy called Gurmit Singh. Now that is a beautiful British name, but it's not a beautiful English name. He's of Sikh heritage, which is from the Indian subcontinent.
Yep.
Again,
21 Sikhs.
Again, unthinkable in the National Front, the NF, which was mentioned in my group the other day. They are Nazis. They are not going to have Sikh leadership. They are not going to be burning swastikas. They are not going to have "We respect Israel's right to exist" in the background.
But they're white, so they must be Nazis.
But this guy's not even white. He's brown. So how can he be a Nazi? And
we'll Photoshop him.
They had media training. The EDL clearly had media training. When the BBC first got interested in them, they did a half-hour panorama, which is when they usually come on and they just bury you. If you've got if you're too far left or you're too far right, it's not a documentary.
Does the BBC attack the left?
Absolutely, it does. It does. The BBC is the voice of the establishment. The establishment is not the left, and it's also not that kind of right.
Whoa. Are you trying to say the establishment are in the middle and they're reasonable people?
No, I would say the establishment is conservative, small c conservative right.
Not sure what that means.
Okay, so all right,
let's continue.
Okay, so they'd obviously had media training. The BBC would pose their usual kind of loaded, leading questions to Gurmit Singh, who was, this Sikh leader of the EDL, and another man called Kevin Carroll, who's Tommy Robinson's cousin and another leader of the EDL. And they'd be asking Kevin Carroll, who's a white guy, "Are you a racist? You're a racist and all that." And then he would, this kind of clumsy attempt to show that he couldn't be racist, his daughter would appear, and she's mixed race. Mm-hmm. And again, National Front, not going to happen. Mm-hmm. Gurmit Singh, they kept trying to get him to say all these, they kept giving him these leading questions where he would try and condemn all Muslims, but he'd obviously been told, they're going to try and do this to you, this is how you get around it, because he's nervous, you can see he is, but he doesn't do it. He doesn't condemn all Muslims on camera. The fact is, this is something that we had never seen before. An organisation that was protesting pretty reasonable aims, like Islamic extremism is bad. I would like to see someone tell me it isn't. Unfortunately, because of the reaction to it, and possibly it would, in fact, probably it would have always gone this way anyway. They started getting some notice. They started getting some success. At that point, your more traditional, proper Nazis do start attaching themselves to the movement.
Okay.
And Tommy Robinson left the EDL in, I think, about 2005.
Because of the Nazi attachments?
He said it was because it had become like infiltrated to a point where he couldn't get rid of it.
Okay.
He has got a criminal conviction for headbutting, you'll like this, a member of Combat 18, which is a paramilitary wing of a Nazi political party. Okay, so there seems to have been some sort of sincere effort to keep these people out, but the fact is there's more of them than you, and I think you have to be careful because the fact is the EDL's core membership, they will have some, pretty unpleasant views.
Yeah.
They won't just be against Islamic extremism by any means. They'll be against all Muslims. Now, I think you can make an argument that you should be against all Islam, but you wouldn't have to dig too far before they started saying some pretty racist stuff, not about religion, about colour. Yeah. And that is obviously not okay.
Separating the religion from the people, Islam does seem to have a lot of bad ideas.
Exactly. But for whatever reason, the reaction to the EDL from the establishment media and from the more militant left-wing groups was that these are just Nazis. There was no effort to differentiate between the National Front, the British National Party, who are National Socialists, and the English Defence League, who are objectively not, or at least whose core leadership, founding nucleus and ideology was not.
Okay.
It didn't seem to matter to anyone. In fact, it still doesn't.
So do you think, going back to Tommy Robinson, do you think that he's still do you think he's still pushing what the EDL was originally?
Yeah, absolutely. You will not see Tommy Robinson say anything about black people. You will not see him say anything about Indian people. You will not see him say anything about Polish people. He would not do that. That's not his angle. He is an anti-Islam campaigner.
What's with the hatred for Polish people?
Well, the hatred's a strong word. There is a dislike of Polish people in some parts of the country. So the city that I grew up nearest to is called Southampton. And I think it's 2008, Poland and the Czech Republic and certain other Central and Eastern European countries join the EU, get free access, free movement.
Yeah, they can go anywhere they want.
Go anywhere they want. But there were travel restrictions imposed in Germany, funnily enough, which is the most EU of all EU countries.
Basically, all the things that Nigel Farage was talking about happened.
But not in England. And the government told us that we could expect some really paltry figure of Poles to move to the UK. And in Southampton's population went up by 10% in a very small number of years, and that new 10% was Polish. That does cause resentment. Because there's competition for...
But they're not out there beheading people.
No, right? They're certainly not doing that. They are out there getting drunk sometimes.
Because the British never get drunk.
No, exactly right. But for whatever reason, people resent the Poles for doing it for more. But they generally do work. They get jobs. They keep themselves to themselves. I don't see many problems with the Poles.
It doesn't sound like there are.
No, I think a lot of people feel the same way. It was once quite funny. I was in... I was in France actually. It was in Amsterdam, and a Polish guy heard I lived in London. I'm not from London, but at that time I was living in London, and he started complaining at me about all the English guys going to Poland and getting drunk and ruining Warsaw. I thought, man, you're lucky I'm a nice guy. If you said that to the wrong English person, they'd probably be really horrible to you.
Yeah. Hey, Poland sounds like a really nice country. I really want to visit there. I would like to visit Hungary as well, and I would like to just do a whole Eastern European trip. Start in Lithuania or Latvia, where everyone's the top north. And go all the way down to Serbia.
Okay, yeah, that'd be a great trip.
That'd be an awesome trip.
You go from somewhere quite nice, Lithuania, to Serbia.
Yeah, Serbia's not nice. I heard they had nice beaches.
I don't think. Oh, maybe. I mean, southeastern Europe, the former Yugoslavia, is really coming into its own because it's not in the EU. It's the last place in Europe that's not the same as everywhere else. So people are starting to go there in larger numbers, like Croatia, Slovenia, Yugoslavia.
I wonder what real estate's like there.
I imagine it's extremely.
Oh, shit. I might have to go buy an entire apartment block and be an Eastern European landlord. Speak with a heavy accent.
That's fine until a bigger person comes and tells you it's his apartment block now. Serbia's rough. Rough around there.
I bet it would be pretty rough.
Serbs are hard people. I used to live with one in Cambridge. They are a tough people, but
yeah, World War One.
They've been through a lot.
Yeah, they didn't roll over.
They did not. Yeah, this guy, he was a bit older than me. I was 27-ish at the time. He was 35, living in a shared house in Cambridge. And he listed all the different things that
he hates about England?
No, that he had been through in his life. He was like the collapse of Yugoslavia, the first Yugoslav breakup war.
Yeah.
Like the NATO bombing, the Kosovan Liberation Army fight, like the hyperinflation. I was like, Jesus, man.
Brutal.
Yeah. Like, no wonder you're such a fucking tough bastard.
Some people have some shocking stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like, absolutely. Yugoslavia was like genocidal ethnic cleansing war.
Yeah, it's Serbian genocide, right?
Yeah. Committed against ethnic Bosnians.
I remember when I was managing this restaurant in BC, we got this Venezuelan, he might have been Argentinian, and so I'm sorry everyone listening for confusing the two countries, because I can't remember. I can't remember if it was from Venezuela or Argentina. But he is a dishwasher. He's the greatest employee you could ever want. He was happy and energetic, and he would be in the back dancing, and he would fucking wash dishes for like 14 hours without stopping. Maybe he'd stop for 20 minutes and have lunch in the middle, and he'd be back there dancing and making jokes and talking to everybody. He'd be listening to some nice music and stuff. Always happy. Rode his bike to and from work. Extremely respectful. Just the greatest. I mean, you could take over the world if you had 20 of these guys. And I would always have to stay late to count money and do all the closing activities and bullshit. And he would always stay late washing dishes until like right before I leave. And then he would always ask me for a slice of cake. Like he would come and be like, Mr. Boss or Mr. Brian or something like that. He's like, can I have a slice of cake before I leave? And in my mind, I'm like, dude, you can take a whole fucking cake. I'm like, this fucking place burns down to the ground without you, man. You're the only employee in here. Well, no, there are a lot of good employees in there, but he was just incredible. But one night, while I was counting money, he sat down and we had like a heart-to-heart talk. And told me some stories from his childhood. And one of the stories that I'll never forget is that he grew up in this little town, and there was like a mountain range in between this town and the next town over, and his uncle and some of his family members lived in the other town. And he always used to bother his mom, hey, can I go visit my uncle? Can I go stay with my uncle? Can I go? And she always said no because he was too young. And then finally she says, yes, but you have to go with your brother. And so he was like 7 or 8 years old, and his brother was like 14. The two of them get on the bus, and they start driving through the mountains, and guerrillas stop the bus. And they take everyone off the bus who's older than like 9 years old and shoot them.
Jesus.
And he walks the rest of the way to the other town. And so he was telling me, like, really open-heartedly, he's like, now that I've finally gotten to America, everything is golden.
Right.
And he like, it wasn't like he was saying he enjoys washing dishes. He was like, I'm here. I made it. Everything else doesn't matter. I made it. By the way, he was like 47 years old, and he looked like he was 19. Seriously. He looked younger than I did, and he was more than double my age.
Shit, man.
And he's like, I'm here. I made it. That's all that matters.
And he was there legally?
I believe so, yeah. I'm not sure. I didn't ask. Yeah, I didn't ask. I don't care. And even when it would snow, like one day it snowed like 2 feet. And like he rode his bike there because it had just started snowing, and then he walks out. He just picks his bike up, puts it on his shoulder, and walks home in the snow. I mean, man, whenever I'm having like a bad day, or whenever I'm doing something that I perceive as hard work, I think about that guy.
Sure.
And it puts things in perspective.
Yeah, you do meet some impressive people, don't you? As time goes by, I met a Hungarian girl who. She could remember one of her earliest memories is her father clubbing rats to death in their like
Charlie and Always Sunny in Philadelphia,
fucking filthy shack. And she this is said one of my earliest thoughts is I'm leaving this country, I'm going somewhere else. And she actually planned to go to Germany, but at the time it was easier to come to England, so she ended up coming to England and doing some sort of HR qualification, and now works in a hospital.
That's cool.
In the UK, and she also had that kind of I made it. Like, it can never be as bad as it was there kind of attitude. It's a healthy attitude.
You grow up clubbing rats, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah, like your earliest memory. My earliest memory is so boring. I'm in my living room. I'm with my sister and the lady who looked after us while my parents were at work, and they look at me and they just go, No, they looked at me and they just go, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And I sort of knew that everything was cool. That's my earliest memory. That's the middle class English earliest memory. The Hungarian earliest memory is your father clubbing rats to death on the bare floor of your godforsaken shack. So
I think my earliest memory is I was in a stroller and I was watching my family play at a water park.
Yeah.
And I remember there was like a crocodile, like a big plastic crocodile with water shooting out of its mouth. I remember my dad and my brother and my sister and everyone playing in the water over there.
But you were in the stroller.
Yeah, I was in
Shit,
a
man,
stroller.
you must have been really young.
I don't know. Or maybe I was in a stroller when I was like 10.
It's just really lazy.
Just strapped to it so I couldn't get away.
It's possible.
Just weighted down. Did you ever have like the leash? Did your parents keep you on a leash?
I don't recall that ever happening.
I'm pretty sure my mom did. Yeah. Well, I ran off a lot.
Sure.
I like to always tell her that she abandoned me because she many times I would be left in places, but I never knew I was left because I would run off. And then like 2 hours later, my mom would be like, "Oh my God, there you are!" I'm like, "Where am I? Like, what do you mean?" And then I think she tried to play it off. She'd be like, "Oh, nothing. Nothing happened. I didn't drive all the way home and then cook dinner and then eat dinner and then realize you weren't there."
Oh boy. Yeah. Oh, I don't think my parents ever had me on reins. I don't know. My other earliest memory is the only other one I can be sure I was 3 when it happened. Is there's 2 girls laughing at me because they're 4, and I'm just. And I remember thinking, man, I got to really work on that. This is not a good look. This being 3 thing.
That's pretty rough. Hey, you overcame it.
Yeah, no, yeah. I got long past it now.
Yeah, now you want to slow that down.
Yeah, I really do.
Yeah,
time goes so fucking fast, man. Yeah. It feels like the year feels like 4 months now.
Yeah, I feel like I just got here 4 years ago.
So you've been here 4 years. I've been here almost 3. Okay.
How old are you?
31.
31. How's that feel? Not too bad.
You say I have trouble breathing, but other than that, it's all okay.
Only breathing.
I hope there'll be big advances in medical technology soon.
Oh man.
How old are you?
Late 20s. I just turned 28.
Okay.
In May.
Cool.
I have a fear, and maybe it's irrational, but it's something that I actually worry about. Okay. What if we, in our generation, are like 80 or 90 years old when they invent the immortality pill?
But so we can't change.
You can't get younger, but you won't get any older. Would you take it?
At 80? It depends on your health, doesn't
exactly.
It?
But I don't think it's gonna be very good.
No. The things.
We're not gonna be the dancing grannies in the street.
I probably would take it under the assumption that there would be like further improvements that would allow me to get younger.
Eventually,
they would improve
parts.
Yeah.
Well, I looked into cryotherapy or cryogenics a little while ago. It's shockingly affordable. Yeah, to have your entire body frozen is only like $28,000.
Well, I listened to a podcast about like a futurist podcast for a little while, and the guys who sponsored it were those people on the cryogenic.
Dude, I think that's a really good bet, man.
Yeah.
So I watched this documentary. I think it was called like The Point of Death or like The Moment of Death or something like that. And they were studying, the whole point of the documentary was, when are you dead? Technically. Like, is it when your heart stops beating? Is it when there's no more brain function? And then they started playing with examples. And one of the examples is stroke victims versus people who drowned. And what they found was, if you go to like Scandinavian countries, there are plenty of cases of a young, healthy person falling through ice, drowning, and then they get pulled out hours later and revived with no loss of ability.
Jesus.
Hours later. They've been dead for hours. But then when you live in like fucking Florida and you have a stroke, 5 minutes without blood to the brain, and you're a vegetable.
So the difference being the ice, obviously.
Yeah, the temperature.
Being the cold, yeah.
Exactly. And so the idea that we'll be able to thaw totally frozen people and bring them back to life, I think is not that unlikely. But
would you be okay? Like, fair enough. Because the guy who used to do this advert said that what makes you is some sort of electrolytes in your brain or something like that, electro patterns in your brain, and as long as you can preserve those, which if you go into cryogenics very quickly would be preserved, that's your personality. Like if those are gone,
So
you could come back to life, but you wouldn't really be you. Yeah.
Well, also the cryogenics company also offers just a head frozen. So they offer
like Futurama.
Yeah, they offer to cut off your body or cut off your head and freeze your head. I don't know, man. It wasn't that big of a price difference, so I think I'd probably have the whole body frozen. You know.
Fuck. Be a head in a jar for the rest of eternity.
Well, I mean, I presume they could put my head into like a Gundam suit.
Okay.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool to be honest. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I'd even... I mean, people always say, would you want to live forever? And I have like open-minded about it, but everybody who says they definitely wouldn't, none of them want to die today.
No. Well, I definitely would want to live forever.
You definitely would?
Yeah, but I would want to be able to die from physical injury. Like, I want to still be able to get hit by a bus. Otherwise, if you're actually immortal, there's no interest. Like, life loses its, loses its flavor. I still want the Chinese air to be killing me slowly.
Okay.
Part of it.
Okay. So, why?
I like the idea of having infinite amount of time to do all the things I want to do.
I get that. I do see the appeal of that, yeah.
And you'd have to obviously be young and healthy the whole time.
Yes.
Again, if you age to 90 and then spend 1,000 years at 90, death is preferable.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
So that makes me wonder, should I just go off myself right now and freeze my young body?
Instead of buying that house,
exactly.
Cryogenics. I guess it's worth thinking about. Have you discussed it with your girlfriend?
Nah. Nah. We're talking about eternity here.
I see.
Yeah. Well, I'm very excited about the future, about technology.
Yeah.
And I don't really care if it's good or bad. It's going to be interesting. Have you seen that movie, that TV show? What's it called? The Abyss. Yeah. The Expanse. Expanse. Yep. Apparently the future is really underwhelming. I haven't seen it, but apparently the future is really underwhelming. Yeah. I think that's quite a believable outcome. Yes, I agree. So you've seen like Firefly, right? Yes. So the aesthetic in Firefly is, and it's sort of subconscious. They don't ever say it, but it's this future where we've commodified space travel to such an extent that you can travel space, in like a jalopy, at a low quality. And I think that's very likely. Okay. I think that's more likely than like the Star Trek high level spacecraft and everyone's in this bullshit. No. It's much more likely. Alien, right? It's much more likely that your spaceship has pieces falling off and you need to replace 5 different pieces and it's a shithole kind of, and it just barely makes it from A to B. Yeah, I think that's definitely more likely. There's lots of sci-fi like that. Alien. Yeah. There's another one. Okay, Star Wars, the Millennium Falcon. That thing's always breaking. Yeah. Right when you need it to. Nothing. You'd think that they would replace that really important part. You would, wouldn't you? It's like every time. Yeah. Especially when they got the resources of like the whole rebellion behind them. Class. Yeah. So you have to work today. What time? I said, this was my day off, and it was short notice. So I said, I'll come in when I've done this. Like, there's no. This university needs teachers. Most of the teachers are leaving at the end of the semester. I think you should apply. I have to look after myself if I work here, don't I? You apply. I have to live. Do it, man. I don't pay for this apartment. Yeah. Free utilities as well. I keep that shit running all day. Like. Yeah. Okay. Pretty nice. Got you to thank for that poisoned air, have I? Yeah, you're welcome. You're very welcome. Okay, so not paying for your apartment is obviously nice. Yeah. Free utilities is nice. Salary is probably about 8,000. 7,300. Okay, 7,300. Yeah, and right now I'm working like 6 hours a week, which is pretty much the most I've ever worked here. And then you do side gigs, obviously. Yeah, unofficially. Yeah, unofficially. Yeah, okay. Yeah. See, I don't think I have the patience to sort that shit out, and I don't think I'd be able to look at it. And like, in all honesty, I don't think I am. And my Chinese is good enough, or my knowledge of China is good enough to function properly independently. Oh, yeah. One of the great things about my job is everything is done for me. Yeah. Like, which obviously makes me pretty useless. You have a Chinese girlfriend, right? Yeah. I do too, but she's does everything. She does do everything. She does a lot. It's a way of getting around learning Chinese, isn't it? Well, having a Chinese girlfriend. I genuinely tried to learn English or Chinese when I got here. Yes, me too. But I abandoned that after about 6 months. Yeah. And I realized that it would be easier to become a fucking doctor than to speak Chinese fluently. It would be easier to go back to school and get a master's degree in just about anything than it is to speaking. I mean, in terms of effort that you have to put in.
Yes.
And what is the payoff for speaking Chinese? Huh? Fuck all. The best job you could possibly get, as an American at least, is probably working for the State Department. Those jobs suck.
There's probably some money to be made in import-export. Not now, but until recently, there was probably some money to be made in import-export.
Well, unless you... only if you own the business. Just as an employee, probably not.
Well, there's a fella called Laszlo Montgomery, he's American from Claremont, California.
Well, what a fucking name.
He does the China History podcast, and he's been working in like Hong Kong, which obviously you don't need Chinese to work in, Ningbo, Wuhan, for 20 years. He seems to do alright. Import-export business. He doesn't say which one, but
see, that's really sketchy. He doesn't say which one. It's he's trafficking human beings packed with fentanyl.
Doesn't get much more illegal than that.
No, but who knows what he's doing? But like you said, you've been doing it for 20 years.
Yes.
So was he making money for the first 15?
Yeah. Okay.
You know, and I don't know, man. It just seems like there's so many. We have such a small amount of time, and I can't justify the time expenditure.
And learning Chinese is ridiculous. Like, Chinese. It's so hard.
It's such a poorly structured language.
And more than that, I actually don't know anything about the grammar, so I can't comment on the structure.
Well, no, I didn't mean structure. I meant, like, organized.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a poorly organized language.
And then, the thing is as well, if you show any aptitude at Chinese with a typical local person, they don't think... If I keep my language simple and speak slowly, they might be able to understand me. They're just like, he speaks Chinese.
Yeah.
And then you're like, what? It makes things worse. It doesn't make things better. Like, it gets really hard really quickly. But I had one of my former colleagues, he's not with us anymore, he's put a lot of time into learning Chinese and got really good results from it. But if he was doing anything really official, like a bank appointment or an appointment with the PSB or whatever, no good. And they would actually get angry with him because they would think he was trying not to understand, you know, if they start asking difficult questions.
Well, I do that all the time. I try not to understand. At this point, I just ting badong my way.
Well, apparently that's like a survival technique, isn't it?
Everything.
I have very little need to ever say that phrase because I just don't put myself in situations where I need to speak Chinese. There's so much you can do.
Well, you don't need to, but sometimes Chinese people just talk at you.
Yeah, they
like
do.
A taxi driver or something.
Oh, sure.
Also, you've never gone to the airport and just walked right to the front of the line?
Oh, God, no.
Do that sometime.
Oh, no, man. I'm an Englishman.
Just the idea of your way. Oh, you guys.
The idea of skipping a queue.
Oh, God, that's the best part of your day. That queue. Sometimes you go to the airport, you don't even have a flight.
Yeah. Oh, it's just horrific. Oh, yeah. I find the problems with queuing. I think some people overstate it. It's not an everyday occurrence, but
the problems with queuing is that there aren't enough of them. There's no queue to my bathroom.
No, it's when
there's no queue to my sock drawer.
When people push in the queue, I do get annoyed.
Yeah,
I do get annoyed.
I bet you do.
I do.
The disorder.
Oh, it's just like that is the beginning and end of civilization, isn't it? Standing in queues. You can't
I couldn't believe that people line up in Shanghai.
They do, yeah.
It's like a different
Beijing as well.
World.
They do in Beijing as well. I think it's not as bad as some people. Some people moan about it too much. It does happen here, but it's only every now and again.
What?
People jumping the queue. It doesn't happen to me every day.
I think it's happened to every single queue I've ever been in.
What? Come on. It happens at airports a lot. People get really because the flights are always delayed or whatever. People get really angry and they just power their way to the front of the queue.
So how are you getting back? Are you going to take the metro here in Optics Valley?
Yeah, I'm going to walk to Optics Valley because I need to swing by restaurant, get some lunch.
Always a pretty aggressive queuing going on here at Optics Valley.
It is an unusually busy station, isn't it? Like, it is fucking ridiculous.
It used to be the terminal station, which was great, which means you always get a seat.
Yeah.
Because the train comes in and empties out.
Is it full when it arrives at Optics Valley now? It is.
Yep.
I thought that would happen.
Of course.
Okay.
They extended it all the way to fucking Changsha.
Yeah, it goes really far, doesn't it?
And now the farm people are on it.
And because it fixes itself to line 11 as well, right?
Oh, does it?
Yeah, so like it goes further out and it's got a subsidiary line.
Yeah, it goes all the way to the airport now.
It does, yeah. No, since I've been here, since you've been here, it'll be even more change. But when I arrived in Wuhan, there was line 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yep.
From now,
when I got here, it was 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 11, 22. And
22
is right up in the corner. And one has been extended. 2 has been extended twice.
2 is like 3 times the length it was when I got here.
Like, like in the UK, they're building this thing called Crossrail, which is like
they've been building for 20 years.
They've been building it for 20 years and they haven't got anywhere. Like, as far as I know, anyway.
Why are they so incapable of doing things in America and Britain? And
I
Europe
think a lot of it is
Western
to do with
countries.
corruption. I think a lot of it is just money disappears.
I agree.
I think,
and unions.
It's almost designed that way.
Working unions fucking over the people.
Yeah, and also you can't just take property from people like you can here. You have to let them go through the courts and waste loads of money trying to argue that they should be allowed to keep their land. That can take 5 years for the court to say, no, fuck you. Sorry, it's of national importance. Here's your compensation. Like, they don't let you do that here. They just here's the compensation.
We have eminent domain in America, but I'm not sure how powerful that is. I'm not sure if that's like a absolute power.
If it's of national significance, nothing is an absolute power.
Yeah.
Right. If the government wants to do something, it's going to do it.
Well, that's what I mean. Eminent domain is them, the government taking.
Oh, right. Sure. I don't think anything can stop it.
Well, I mean, we have there's always disputes over pipelines and stuff like that, but that's probably not national interest.
Yeah.
But
that's with the natives as well, right?
Yeah.
So that's a tricky area for the Americans.
Not that tricky.
Okay.
But
I think as well, the whole world's watching. Nobody wants to see old people getting beaten up and such, which tends to happen at these protests, right?
Hey, they shouldn't have come.
Nobody wants to see that. That doesn't look good for anyone.
I don't know, man. When it comes to pipelines and stuff, when it comes to conventional ideas of progress, I am always on the side of the progress. I don't give a shit if the pipeline goes right through your beautiful mountain range. Don't care.
Well, how's that progress?
Fuck that mountain.
If that ruins your mountain, surely mountains are good.
But it's a mountain. How do you ruin a mountain?
Well, that's a good question.
Paint a bunch of dicks on it, so every time you wake up in the morning, there's dicks all over your mountain. That
would just make your mountain more interesting. But if you started doing fracking, hydraulic fracturing in an area of outstanding natural beauty.
Yeah, but what do you think fracking does? Again, you're not destroying everything. It's not like an apocalyptic movie where everything is annihilated.
You have this big tower. You have trucks going endlessly.
Yeah, but we're talking about thousands of miles of natural land here.
Yeah, maybe we are in America.
Yeah. If you're talking about one area, that's even even if it's a huge facility and it's a quarter mile by a quarter mile, it's nothing. It's a little dot in the forest. When you fly over, this is why the Sasquatch stories get so much credibility. When you fly over the Pacific Northwest, and it's just thousands and thousands and thousands of miles of just forest. Yeah. Just dense forest in all directions.
I'd love to go.
You're there could be some shit down there.
The Sasquatch, that's a cool. I like the old cryptozoology. That's kind of interesting. I always like the idea of Bigfoot and the Yeti. Do you know there's one in Hubei?
There's a Yeti in Hubei?
There is. It's called the Yeren, which translates as wild man. I'm probably saying that horribly.
Wild man?
Translates as wild person.
It's probably just some British dude who got lost. On his way from Jiangsu to Hong Kong. He got lost.
And he's in there's a national park in Hubei somewhere. I can never pronounce it, but if you go there, there's
the call of the Yeti.
The Yeren.
In it. In it.
What's your problem?
Avum.
Yeah, so I think cryptozoology is really interesting. Sasquatch is a cool idea, but I think we would have seen that one by now. Yeti though, that's in the Himalayas, was that going to be Tibet, Nepal? Who knows?
Who knows?
No, I'm open-minded. About it. The Loch Ness Monster is obviously bullshit because Loch Ness is big, but it's not that big. It's not thousands of miles. It's a quarter of Scotland, which is pretty small. And you could... There's another one in the Congo. Some people say there's a Brachiosaurus type dinosaur in the Congo.
No, I'm sure the Congo is huge and dense, but it's hard to hide a Brachiosaurus.
Yeah, Brachiosaurus is pretty fucking big, right?
Yeah. If there was a small animal in the Congo, yeah. What about there's all these stories about giants in Afghanistan. Giants? Yeah, in the mountains of Afghanistan.
I've heard that one. Okay.
There's stories on YouTube about American soldiers killing giants.
Fuck. Are these stories by cranks?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely bullshit. But it would be cool.
It's a cool idea.
Well, that's why I think that we should allow China to go crazy with this CRISPR technology. And I'm all for China doing this because I knew that they would do this.
Technology?
It's editing genes.
Oh.
Editing like DNA.
Yeah.
And I knew that China would be on the forefront of this because all of our countries have too much fucking morality.
Yeah.
And God doesn't like these things. Jesus would be upset. Fuck.
Would he?
He's a cunt. And so I'm happy that China's on the forefront of this because it's gonna be a need for a lot of experimentation and a lot of it's gonna go wrong. And China seems like this is the perfect place where they just don't give a shit. And they're gonna just go wild, like, let's try this, let's try that, let's try this. And it doesn't matter if they ruin 100,000 people's lives, but eventually they'll get it right. And then we're gonna have superheroes.
Right.
Okay?
They will be Chinese.
Well, yeah, they'll start as Chinese, and then we'll steal their technology, and it'll be this hilarious irony where China will be complaining about the world stealing their technology. But 2 generations from now, everybody's gonna be like 7 feet tall, giant horse cocks. You know,
sounds good.
Yeah, probably have 7 fingers on each hand or some crazy shit like that. Yeah,
that sounds good.
Eagle vision.
Wow, that sounds useful.
Shark teeth.
Breathe underwater.
Yeah.
Fly.
Gills.
Gills.
Yeah. And then we're gonna start breeding monsters. This is my theory. Just to make things more interesting. I think the world could use some dragons.
Right? That'd be cool.
Yeah. I think the world could.
I don't know if the dragons got out of hand.
No, we want them to be out of hand. All right. At least in America, I can buy a fucking 50 caliber sniper rifle at the local store. Why not? Yeah, I'm trying to sit on my balcony and snipe some dragons. It's a good pastime. That's what we do in America, all right? There's a whole new reason for the world to hate America.
I mean, the world does have, like, bad opinions about America, but...
Yeah, but we just don't.
I know, that's true.
I mean, it's not that they're unfounded. Like, a lot of the criticism of America are very legitimate. They're just such weak criticism. When they say, like, Americans are fat and lazy, it's like, yeah, the whole world wishes they were fat and lazy.
That's an interesting point. Yeah.
We're fat and lazy because we don't have to dig holes all day.
No, you make a good... Like, that is an interesting way to look at it. It's true to an extent. That is true. I think there's a Chinese academic he's obviously like a very state-friendly guy and speaks pretty good English.
I don't think you can become a high-level academic without being state-friendly.
Probably not. You certainly can't become a public intellectual without being state-friendly. And anyway, he makes criticisms of America that are perfectly legitimate. But he says he says like it's important. He's talking about how human rights in China are actually better than human rights in America, right? And then he says we need to be honest when we balance the situation. So his version of honest when we talk about the situation is everything that's wrong with America and all of these are completely true. Everything that's cool about China and all of these are completely true.
Naturally.
And then it's like, but he doesn't do any of all the things that are cool about America or all the things that are bad about China. So people will come away watching that if they're not like thinking about it. If they want to believe that China's got better human rights than America, they'll come away from that thinking, that's amazing. Look at all these terrible things America does. They won't stop to think about what are the good things it does.
Well, I think it's a really common experience that foreigners have here that they feel more free.
Absolutely.
But I think it's just because of the lack of infrastructure.
It's the lack. I think it's the lack of like your growing up peer group and your immediate family and stuff. I think a lot of those kind of restrictions come more from like anthropology than from sociology.
That's interesting. That's an interesting take. What do you mean? Like go into it deeper.
Like I don't have to worry about. When I was a younger man, now I'm 31. When I was 25, I used to be so competitive with my friends.
Oh, yeah.
I used to be so worried if this guy's making more money than me, this guy's got a hotter girlfriend than me. You know, like, and that is extremely trapping. That would guide my behavior, my outlook, and the way I presented myself to the world in a very drastic way. It would like have a huge influence on me. Trying to just let all that shit go.
Wow.
Because it's not here. I don't care.
Yeah. That's a totally new take on it. Yeah. What I mean when I say that is like I can go outside right now and shit in the street and I'm not going to be arrested. That's
another way of looking at it. Yeah.
That's what I meant by freedom.
Okay.
And like shitting in the street is definitely not illegal, but China has probably more laws than America, just none of them are enforced.
Yeah, that's true. The smoking ban is a good one. Yeah, 2011 smoking ban came into effect in China, yeah.
Well, it's only been 8 years.
Yeah.
You know, they'll get around to it eventually.
But they do enforce it in Beijing, they enforce it in Shanghai. Mm-hmm. More yes and no in Guangzhou and Shenzhen. Completely no in every tier 2 I've ever been to. Yeah. So,
well, like, so you get this feeling like you're more free, but it's only because none of the laws are enforced.
Yeah,
You know, if tomorrow every law they had on the books was enforced, this place would be a brutal police
North
state.
Korea, yeah.
But also, they don't have the ability to enforce it. They don't have the infrastructure. Like, when you said that you saw so many cops in America, like, we have the ability to enforce a police state. And so that's why America feels so heavy. When I'm in America, I feel the weight of the government on my shoulder.
But you don't feel that in China?
Well, in China, it's like a soft... in China, it's like the shadow.
Okay.
It's always there, and you don't feel the shadow. I mean, at any moment, the shadow could cut your throat, but it's there. Whereas America, it's like a monkey on your shoulder. It's just kind of bothering you. It's always there, but it's not ever really going to fuck you.
Okay. Yeah, I think, like, you're right. I mean, the interesting question is whether the fact that China doesn't apply its laws as they appear on the books, is that because of its lack of ability to enforce them, or because it knows that if it did enforce everything by the book, this place would be not as nice a place to live?
Yeah, probably both. And there's also a large amount of corruption. It seems like if you have enough money, you can just do anything you want here.
Sure.
You know? Yeah. I also think that the numbers are all fudged.
Definitely.
Especially when it comes to, like, crime.
Well, yeah. And also the fact that they cover up crime. Did you know 2 weeks ago there was a foreigner-related murder in Wuhan?
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either, but I found out yesterday. A foreigner was murdered by another foreigner, Moroccans, in Nanhu, not a million miles from here.
Jesus.
What didn't appear, as far as I know, that did not appear in the news.
Yeah, I didn't hear about that, and it wasn't in any of the groups either.
No, I heard about it from someone who knew I believe, the perpetrator. Yeah.
Did you know 2 years ago, a Chinese gang here in Guangzhou crippled a foreigner?
No, I did not know
They
that.
fucking shattered his legs.
Why?
Because they hired him to be like the promoter for their bar, and I guess he did a bad job, so they fucked him up.
Fuck, man. Jesus.
Yeah.
Does anyone we know?
No. Just some dude.
Shit. Yeah, like, crime is not often reported. There was at Devil's one night. I left early that night because I was with my, at that time, girlfriend, and like a fucking race riot broke out where a bunch of Chinese started fighting with a bunch of white people, and then, you know, Indian Don? Mm-hmm. He was there. They didn't know what to do with him because he's like, well, he's foreign, but he's not white. Like,
what side are you on?
So he just like, I'm standing over here. But yeah, like a big fight happened. The police came, and I have to say, from everybody I know who was there, they were very good about it.
Really?
Yeah. Like
normally the Chinese just win, like the everyone else gets fucked over.
Yeah, that did not happen on this occasion. It probably helped that the Devil's owners speak very good Chinese.
Yeah, and they have cameras everywhere.
That's true.
So it would be very easy to prove if the Chinese started the fight.
Yeah.
Not that would matter in a Chinese court, though.
No. But it didn't get to court. The police made the aggressive Chinese pay compensation to the foreigners. Yeah. Everybody went home happy.
Well, there's been a bunch of attacks on foreigners where no one gets arrested. The police just negotiate a cash payment, cash settlement.
That's better. Do I care if he spends the rest of his life in jail? I want some money.
Well, it depends how badly you get hurt.
That's
right?
also true.
You know, like if he fucking bottles you and you've got brain damage.
I need a lot of money.
A bit of cash is not going to make anything better.
It's not. But yeah,
and it's never a significant amount of money. Like, would you really take 3,000 RMB after getting hit with a stool or something like that?
Depends how hard I got hit, I guess.
Well, you go into the hospital, get staples and shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, they make you pay for the medical expenses and some pain and suffering. That's as I understand it, the way it works, and that is the way that crime is kept low. The problem with
it's not that crime is low; it's just not reported.
Okay,
the numbers are low.
Yeah, the numbers are low. So the thing is that we do wrong in the West, though, if we're being honest, is over-reported.
Yeah.
Crime, like just this kind of constant stream of horrible, but ultimately random and pretty insignificant on a societal level attacks, always in the media.
Yeah, true.
And it creates this like kind of this perception that the society is much more dangerous than it really is.
Exactly. I get that all the time with America.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks America is so incredibly dangerous. Yeah. If you're not living in downtown Baltimore, it's by far one of the safest countries in the world.
Absolutely. And even if you are living in a crime spot like downtown Baltimore, if you are not actively involved in the drug trade yourself,
you're probably safe.
Your odds of being involved in a violent incident are still very, very low.
Yeah, exactly. I have a theory that, I have a suspicion, I should say, that the violent crime in China is extremely common. Like that guy who got his head cut off for the Brigham last year. Yeah. I have a suspicion that things like that happen all the time, constantly. And we just don't hear about it unless it's really egregious. Okay. Or when like a WeChat video of the guy walking around with the head posts.
That's happening spread here, isn't it? Yeah. Like, I've seen some dark shit.
Some incredibly
when
dark
I was
shit.
new in China, I didn't know what to expect. So someone's posted a video in a group. Video, I haven't seen that before. Click on it. It's a car in a canal or a river on its side. I'm like, oh, what's this about? And then there's like a crowd standing around and they're pulling dead children out of the car. And I was just like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
Never seen anything like it before.
Not in the news. It won't be reported. No. My first year here, there was a video that was posted of construction workers who had just finished building a bridge. And when they build a new bridge, they build it next to the old bridge. And then they divert traffic again and they blow up the old bridge and take out all the rubble. And the video is from a good distance away, and there's two construction guys there, and they're like fiddling with all these knobs and stuff for the explosives. And you can see that there are still cars driving across, and they demolish the bridge with people driving across.
Oh God!
And everyone that was driving across the bridge died.
You see, that would be funny if it wasn't real. Yeah. That would be funny in a movie.
And the construction workers can see the people driving across, and they just don't care. They just hit the button. And the bridge explodes and everyone dies. And
it's fucking weird, man. That's weird.
You know why? My suspicion is that no one told them to divert traffic, so it's not their responsibility. And that's their mindset. Like, oh, I wasn't told to divert traffic to the new bridge, so I was told to blow up the bridge at 4 o'clock. It's 4 o'clock, I'm going to blow up the bridge. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I can see that. That is the not my responsibility thing is a real problem here. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, man. I think this is the main reason I'm leaving China is that I don't feel like anything's permanent here, especially for a foreigner. I feel like at any moment the PSB could knock on this door and I could be sent to a fucking camp in Siberia. You know, if I'm lucky, I'll be deported.
I think you'd be more likely to be deported, yeah.
If you're lucky.
Depending on what you've done. You haven't done anything that bad, have you?
Well, that's the thing. You don't need to do anything bad. Everyone has that Western mindset, like, oh, they need proof. They need proof that I did something bad.
No, they don't.
They certainly don't.
They don't, but
you
I don't
can
think...
just disappear.
You can.
Yeah.
But they're not going to do that. Why would they do that to you?
But why wouldn't they?
Because it's not worth the aggravation.
What do you mean aggravation?
They have to put up with annoying phone calls from the embassy. Funnily enough, one of my colleagues recently did disappear. But he didn't disappear how you're saying. So what happened is he didn't.
No one disappears. Well, except Phil last week.
No, he didn't show up for work, right? He didn't show up for work. So they went looking for him, and apparently he left his hotel. This guy had been in China for 9 months, still lives in a hotel. This gives you an idea of what a fuck up I'm talking about.
Well, some people also just avoid integration as much as possible. Some people can't handle it.
Okay, so this guy, he had packed his bags and had left the building. He'd left his hotel at like 6:30 in the AM when he's due at work at, like whatever, 10:30. He told the receptionist that he was going to invest in an agriculture technology business in Beijing. But what he actually did was he got on a plane and flew back to the US, but he didn't tell anyone where he'd gone. So the school sends someone to speak to the hotel receptionist, and she says, oh yeah, he left this morning. He's going to Beijing to invest in agriculture business. They're calling him for 2 days. They can't get hold of him. A notice goes out in Americans in Wuhan.
Yeah.
This guy is missing.
Oh yeah, I got that notice.
Yeah. This guy, that's my colleague. Yeah. This guy is missing. We don't know where he is. And I thought, fuck, maybe he's disappeared. Because that guy used to have, he was a bullshit artist, a real bullshit artist. He was friends with Princess Diana.
Yeah.
He had an office in one of the Twin Towers. He was at the Pentagon on 9/11. He watched the Berlin Wall came down. He was in Rwanda in 1994.
Wow.
Like, this guy is world history in a person. But one of his stories was he was in the CIA.
Of course.
So when he disappears, I started thinking, fuck. Maybe he really was.
Or maybe he's just being interrogated right now. Like, no, I was lying. Yeah. Like, of course you would say that.
Okay. But anyway, it did turn out he had just gone back to the US. But yeah, for a while, I was like, fuck, people disappearing.
It's sketchy, man.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I just don't have any trust.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's right not to trust, like, what is clearly an unaccountable, extremely powerful and paranoid government.
Well, that is not what's happened with Canadians. How many Canadians have been arrested since that Huawei girl?
But they're typically like Chinese Canadian. I think it would be different if they went after white people. I know it's not exclusively. It's like important business people as well, but the people that are
diplomats and stuff.
Yeah, the people that are having problems leaving the country are people who like Chinese Americans, Chinese Canadians who had some links to this country, like, and yeah, they are getting fucked over, and no one seems to care. But
so sketchy.
I think it's a while before like university teachers.
Well, so that's what I was gonna say is like what I always think about, and maybe this is like hubris, but when one of those reports goes out, like, oh, missing foreigner, and like we haven't heard from this person in 2 days. Because of my schedule at the university, it's often that I'll go like a week without talking to anybody. Right. And I'm like, Jesus, how long would I have to be gone before someone noticed I was gone? No. Because like sometimes I don't see my students for 3 or 4 days. And sometimes I don't talk to my boss for a week or two. And sometimes I don't talk to other foreigners for 5 or 6 days. But yeah, this apartment could just be empty for a month probably before anyone's like,
where's Brian?
Where's Brian?
Going back to America.
I've always thought about that as well. If I went back to America, how many checks would I get? How many payrolls would I get before they realize I'm not here anymore?
You should try.
Dude, last year I hurt my back, and just like on a whim, I took 10 weeks off. And no pay reduction or anything.
Wow.
Just a text message to my boss, hey, I hurt my back, I'm not going to class for a little while. Sent a text message to my students, hey, I hurt my back, I'm not going to class for a little while. And I took 2 months off plus 2 weeks.
So who covered?
Nobody. There's just no class.
So students just didn't care?
Yeah. And the school doesn't care, no one cares. And no pay reduction or anything.
So why do they run the classes in the first place?
Exactly, I wonder that all the time. Well, I skip like 30% of my classes.
You skip 30% of your classes?
At least, probably, yeah. I mean, a couple weeks, maybe a month ago, I went to Shanghai to renew my passport. Just took a week off class.
And students don't care?
No one cares. Wow. No one even checks. I don't even do grades. Up until last semester, just everyone got 100%.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty chill.
That is extremely chill.
Yeah, so I don't understand why foreigners actually work in this city.
Yeah, I see your point. I
don't understand it. I have class at 2:30 p.m. I don't prepare. There's no lesson plan. I haven't done a PPT in the entire 4 years I've been here. I still don't know how to make a PPT. All right? It's like a mystery to me. I don't understand how you get all of these pictures together.
So what does a class with Brian look like?
Well, it's a class at 2:30. I might get there at 2:30. It might be 2:35 or 2:40. Okay. And it's a 90-minute. It's supposed to be a 90-minute lecture class. And I just go in, I just sit down, and all my students, we sit in a circle, and I just go, what do you guys want to talk about today? And we just shoot the shit for 90 minutes, and then I leave.
What are you supposed to be talking about?
There is no supposed to.
So what's the topic of the course?
There is none. So this Thursday class is an elective class. It's elective English. That's it. There is nothing.
So it's like an English corner?
It's pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
And then I teach American history Monday and Wednesday, and it's the same thing. I just go in, I just open the book, and I basically read verbatim from the book. And then we shoot some shit. They ask questions about what we said. And that's it. I leave.
Wow. Their English must be pretty good to be teaching them American history.
It's okay. Yeah. What I can't get past is like the idiosyncrasies of the Chinese students. On the very first day of class, I tell them that I don't take attendance and they will not be getting an attendance grade. And every student still comes to class. But 80% of them just sleep or play on their phones. And I can't understand why. And I say this to them. I get frustrated sometimes, so I just yell at my students. That's like half my classes, where I just tell my students that they'll never amount to anything, and yeah, I'm being I think it's tough love. I think that's what they need. Okay. But it's understandable from my perspective, because I'll often say to them, like, why are you here? You know you're not getting an attendance grade. You got I have an 8 a.m. class on Wednesday. You got out of bed to be here just to sleep in a class that you don't get a grade for attendance. Why did you get out of bed? And they don't have an answer because they didn't think it through. I'm like, you guys are not going to achieve anything.
I sometimes tell, if I have a Friday evening class and students just obviously don't care, I sometimes give them you could be anywhere, it's Friday night. What do you like doing with your free time? Just stay home. Okay. Yeah. So why have you come? What's the point?
They don't have interests, they don't have dreams, they don't have goals, they don't have hobbies.
Sometimes they don't seem to have friends.
They don't have personalities.
Yeah, that's true. I don't believe it's entirely a language thing either.
It's not a language thing at all. My students speak great English, most of them.
It's quite rare to meet someone who's really got an original opinion.
Yeah.
It is quite
They don't even need to be that interesting to me. They just need to be a person.
Yeah.
You know? And like, I have a pretty low bar for humanity. But they just seem like empty vessels. That's what it feels like. Like mannequins. Robots.
Yeah, definitely. Like, if you ask, like, 30 of my students of a similar ability the same question, you'd only get about 4 answers. Maybe less.
I had an English corner class one year where I asked them what they want to do. And they said they wanted to work on creative writing. I was like, oh, this is going to be good. So every day, I would come into class, I would have them all take out a piece of paper, and there's only like 6 students in the class. And I would put a 1-sentence prompt on the board, like, suddenly there's a knock at the door, some bullshit like that. And I'd be like, okay, you're going to write 4 sentences that build off of this, creating a story. And I'll give you 15 minutes to do that. And at the end of the 15 minutes, I'm like, okay, pencils down. And no one's written a single sentence. Nothing. Nothing. And then I'll put them in teams. I'm like, okay, teams of 2, and each of you only have to write 1 sentence, 15 minutes. And then the team of 2 will get the prompt, like, suddenly there's a knock at the door, and then the next sentence is, the pizza is here. I'm like, really?
Creative writing.
That's the best you could do? These are fucking 20-year-olds.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't have much creativity.
Don't have much.
They don't have much, yeah, fair enough.
It seems like there's nothing.
It's true, like,
nothing going on.
Life seems to be so boring.
Life is so boring.
One of my colleagues clearly has a rich husband, going from like clothes and bags and such, and yet she chooses to work because she just doesn't know what else she would do with her time if she didn't work.
A lot of people are like that, though. I meet a lot of people like that from all over the world, where they're like, I don't know what I'd do with my time. You said that yourself. I don't know what I'd do with my time if I didn't work.
No, I do know what I would do with my time, and it would be self-destructive. Like, I would fuck my shit up.
Maybe that's what you should be doing. Maybe that's your destiny.
Maybe. So, but she doesn't seem to enjoy. I really enjoy my job as well. She doesn't seem to particularly enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't seem particularly bothered. It's like, you've got money, you've got time. Why don't you travel? You don't even have to leave China. You're like, she's a traditional kind of person. You don't want to leave China. Fine. Just go around China. China's fucking huge.
Yeah.
Spend your whole life.
I don't know, man. Their lives are shockingly boring. And they don't seem to... Maybe it's that they don't have the perspective. Like, they don't understand how boring their lives are. Which, I think I would be fucking sent to a gulag if I shared my memoir with these students.
Yeah. But
the moment I leave, I'm going to send out a PDF to them and be like, read this shit. And then you'll understand why I just spent the last 4 years telling you that you're boring and useless.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll read that. I'll read your book. That'd be fun.
Yeah. I finished writing it, so I'm going to organize a release when I get home.
How many pages is it?
I think it's like 160, 170. Okay. It's like 150 stories. And most of the stories are just 1 page.
In any particular order, or just as they occur to you?
Dude, that's been the most difficult part of the whole book, is structuring it. I don't really have any method or reasoning behind the structuring it, and it's kind of upsetting to me because I really want to just get this book out. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of looking at it. But there's part of me that thinks if I just keep looking at it for long enough, I'm just like staring at my computer for hours, then something will come to me for like an interesting way to organize it. But no.
You could go with chronological.
I don't even
as
know.
far as you can remember.
But that's the thing. I don't even know what comes before what.
Sure. That does get weird.
Like fucking 40% of the book are drug stories, and God knows when.
Yeah.
I don't even know what year it was when that was happening. So.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm just using this as practice. So if no one ever buys the book, I don't care. Good to get the stories out of my head. This is cathartic. There's a catharsis.
I think there's a certain like just life goals element to having written a book anyway. That's a cool thing to have done.
Especially somebody like me who's barely literate. Pretty severe dyslexia. I read my first book when I was 15.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's nice.
What was your first book?
1,000 Orcs by R.A. Salvatore.
Okay. Yeah. Some fantasy stuff.
Fantasy, yeah.
Okay.
I owned that book for years and years and years without understanding any of it. And for years, I would just open it to a random page, and I'd spend like 2 hours reading one page and not remember anything that I read, and not comprehend anything I read, and just close the book. And so it was like already tattered and destroyed by the time I read it and understood it.
Wow.
Without R.A. Salvatore, I would never have learned how to read because I had no desire to read any of the books.
Whoa.
But, man, I didn't realize that reading is important.
Damn straight.
Like, I didn't understand when I was a little kid that it doesn't matter how smart you are. All that matters is how much intelligence you're able to convey with your language. And so you can be incredibly smart, but if you can't speak, then it doesn't matter.
It's true.
Yeah. So, yeah, I wish somebody had told me that when I was a kid. I remember back when I had a vocabulary of like 100 words, just thinking, wow, these people around me are so dumb. But I have no way of speaking to them.
Yeah.
Just hearing ideas that I know are stupid. I'm like, that's a dumb idea. But can't tell them why.
Sure. Yeah. It's a shame that they stopped teaching us rhetoric and logic. Like the way to speak. Rhetoric is a really useful skill, I think. It used to be a big part.
Is that what rhetoric means?
Yeah.
My vocabulary is still terrible.
Okay. It'll
never be good, and spelling is awful.
It used to be a big part of classical education. But like that's just why I think like if you watch Churchill, if you watch Lloyd George, probably like Lincoln as well, because we do have recordings of Lincoln.
Jordan Peterson.
Oh no, there are no recordings of Lincoln, are there? Jordan Peterson.
Great speaker.
I think Sam Harris is a better speaker.
I fucking hate Sam Harris. His speech patterns are terrible.
I think he's
great. You don't understand. You don't notice the idiosyncrasies and like listen to him speak, but ignore what he's saying and just listen to the way he's speaking and the idiosyncrasies of how he speaks.
Okay.
It infuriates me.
I think like
I love what he says.
Yeah.
Like I love his writing. His writing is great because it doesn't have those little quirks in it. But him speaking,
you just don't like his voice.
It's like no, his voice is fine. It's like nails on a chalkboard though. When somebody can't stop saying like or or when they have some speaking. I don't want to call it technique because not always conscious. And my example I always go to is like Obama. He stutters not because he stutters, but he stutters to emphasize a word, and he ends up using that in almost every sentence because it becomes just a pattern, and it becomes he probably can't stop now.
The Mark Stein can speak. Have you ever heard Mark Stein?
No.
He's I watched a video he did the other day about the Danish cartoon crisis.
No, yeah.
Muslims around the world rampaged over a cartoon they didn't like. And I thought he was absolutely fucking brilliant. And there's a guy called Douglas Murray as well, who's
he's very well spoken.
Educated, and he went to like Eton. He was a poor kid who went to Eton public school, so he's just such a good speaker. And then there are people like Jordan Peterson. I like some of the ideas, but you better bloody be right. Like, I think
he's so Canadian. He's aggressively Canadian.
I think he does what he accuses some of the people he doesn't like of as well. I think he gets quite emotional sometimes.
He does, yeah. Well, especially like in his university lectures, he gets emotional, and I think that's part of. I think we all have these idiosyncrasies, and one of his is that he'll get emotional to emphasize a point.
Yeah.
He's got YouTube videos where he's crying when he's talking about Marxism.
Yeah. I listened to one of those, and I thought this is really strange from a guy like Jordan Peterson. There's some things that I definitely agree with, but he says a lot about like people being too emotional. It's like we need a society built on responsibilities, not rights.
Jordan Peterson voice. Yeah. Who else? Is Stephen Fry.
Great speaker.
Well
Christopher Hitchens.
Yeah.
Christopher Hitchens is a great speaker.
Graham Hancock.
Yeah.
Speaking is such a power. It's a superpower. I tell my students that all the time because I sort of turn a lot of my classes into public speaking classes because I really enjoy public speaking. And I tell them all the time, you can take over the fucking world if you're a good speaker.
It's true.
You know, it doesn't matter. You could be the greatest engineer in the history of the world, but no one gives a shit. No one follows engineers. People follow good speakers.
Oh, that's absolutely true.
Look at Hitler.
I don't think Hitler was a good speaker.
Well, you don't speak German. Maybe if you spoke German,
that's true.
You get all the.
You know, my mother speaks German.
Did she love Hitler?
No, she didn't. My mother's English. She was born in Germany. Didn't think to teach me German. Wasted opportunity.
Man, I've broken every chair in my apartment. I'm just too fucking big and heavy. Look, all the wheels are broken off.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Well, there was a black chair here, a black like desk chair, and I fucking shattered that to pieces.
Fuck.
So then I bought that chair on tab. I was like 140 quiet. It broke after like a month. And then I sent a picture of the broken chair to my boss, and she gave me this chair, which is actually her chair from her office, and she's sitting in a wooden chair now. I don't understand sometimes. Chinese culture, but then this broke immediately when she gave it to me.
No. It's not the chairs, it's you.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is, yeah. And there used to be 4 of those chairs, now there's only 3.
Fuck, man.
And I've repaired all of them multiple times. There's like a dozen nails in this.
What's going on?
Thing. Blue.
Not that big.
I'm just rough with the things around me. Unnecessarily rough with them.
I'll teach you.
Yeah, it doesn't though. I'll just get a new chair. I need like a stone chair, like a granite chair.
Sounds uncomfortable.
A granite throne, that's what I need.
Did you finish? You're a Game of Thrones fan,
yes.
right? Do you want to weigh in on the final season?
I think we probably should, yeah. It's garbage. Fucking garbage.
You didn't like it?
I think D&D should be crucified.
Okay.
Yeah, drawn and quartered.
Yeah.
Like they did with William Wallace.
Okay.
Pull their entrails out.
He deserved it.
No, I think genuinely, no hyperbole, I think they should be taken off. They should lose their Disney offer.
What's the Disney offer?
Disney, I think, if I heard correctly, Disney offered them $1 billion to make 3 Star Wars movies.
Whoa, no shit.
Shit, in fact. And that's why they stopped doing Game of Thrones, because they've done Game of Thrones for over a decade now.
Yeah.
And they got this Disney offer, and they said, fuck Game of Thrones, and they went there.
Yeah.
Because HBO wanted 10 seasons. They wanted 10 episode seasons of Game of Thrones. But D&D were like, no, we got this Disney offer.
And HBO didn't feel they could bring in anyone else, clearly.
And they just jumped ship. Well, I heard that it came down to George R.R. Martin. He gave the rights only to D&D.
I see.
So no one else was legally allowed to write for it, or something like that, or produce the episodes. Okay. But what a fucking shame. I mean, I hope that this leaves a bad mark on their career for the rest of their life. To jump ship from one of the most popular franchises in history, and to jump ship so shallowly just because you want to make Game of Thrones, or just because you're sick of it. You're sick of it. Like, you get... It comes back to that guy from Venezuela, you know?
I'm here, I made it.
Yeah, I'm here, I made it. And then D&D are like, oh, we've been doing this for 10 years. We're sick of it. We want to go do Star Wars.
Star Wars is a big offer. Especially as Star Wars is, like, hurting at the moment. There is a lot of...
Well, you think these guys are going to do a good job? Look at season 7 and 8. Even 6 was pretty bad.
I haven't watched Game of Thrones since season 3. I gave up.
You're lucky.
I said nothing is fucking happening in this show.
No.
We're getting away from Starks and Lannisters. And who are these? We've got these Martells and these Freys. And I don't care about them. Who are they? I know next season we're just going to have more of this shit. Like...
So you just don't like the story at all?
No, I thought it got too... I mean, this is obviously a big thing in like fantasy and anime and sci-fi, like world building. People love that expression. I don't want to...
You're so cynical.
Yeah, I am really cynical about that
world building.
I don't want to see that. I want a story.
What do you want?
We got like the Starks, the good guys.
You just want like speed, right? Bus go fast.
Fucking love speed.
Bus go slow bomb, big bomb boom.
The bus that couldn't slow down.
Yeah.
One of the best movies ever made, though.
Yeah, you people.
Are you saying you don't like that movie?
Fucking troglodyte.
Oh no, absolutely not.
Of course, it's a great movie.
It's a great movie.
What about Speed on a Boat? You see that one?
Yeah,
Speed
it's like the first one, but without a bus.
Yeah, man.
It was shit.
Great.
It was terrible. The second one was terrible. Like, I think when Keanu Reeves said no, they should have pulled the plug on that one.
On the second one?
Yeah, like, I mean...
Who was it? Like Steven Seagal or something?
No, it's not. It's Sandra Bullock and then like Alec Patrick.
Don't know.
Exactly, who the hell's that?
Yeah.
And William Dafoe is the bad guy. William Dafoe plays a good villain,
yeah.
But the whole movie was just really stupid.
Hey, Game of Thrones is fucking great. The source
I
material is great.
I loved the first season. I thought the first season was so good. And I thought the second season was pretty good. And I thought the third season was rubbish.
I think the first 3 are great. The fourth season is pretty good. 5th season, things start going down. 6th season was pretty bad. 7th season was fucking awful. The 8th season was unwatchable garbage fire.
And yet you did watch it.
Of course. I didn't pay for it.
Okay.
I don't have an HBO subscription.
Okay.
Who the fuck does?
Yeah. So you think 7 was not good?
No, I thought it was bad.
I haven't heard, I mean, I didn't follow like the fan criticism culture, whatever, that much until season 8, and I didn't realize that. So season 7 is unpopular as well.
Yeah. Well, you can really tell now that we know that they had this Disney offer. You can really tell that because season 1 is accused often of being kind of slow, but it's because the source material they're using is so incredibly dense. They still have to cut the vast majority of the material in order to even make one slow 10-hour season. Yeah. And so, as the seasons progress, you get a more intense sense that everything's speeding up and more is being cut out, and you get a more and more shallow story. And it gets to a point where entire episodes could have been built around what ends up being a 10-second scene.
Sure.
Based on the source material. Sure. Like, for example, the Tower of Joy scene where Ned Stark and his 6 best knights, they go and they fight Arthur Dane and Duncan the Tall at the Tower of Joy. The entire episode should have been about that scene because it's one of the most epic battles in the history of like knight versus knight sword duels, and it ended up being like a 10-second scene. And they changed a lot of things unnecessarily to make it more like flashy Hollywood bullshit. Because Sir Arthur Dane is supposed to be the greatest knight in history, and he uses something called the Sword of the Morning, which is a sword made from like a meteorite metal, and it like glows purple, and he has a shield. But in the show, he just has 2 normal swords, and he has a sword in each hand, and he's like flipping swords around and doing all this crazy fucking Star Wars Jedi bullshit. It made me so angry. Okay. It was some Hollywood bullshit.
Yeah. So you've read those books?
Nope, sure haven't. Dude, it's like fucking 1.5 million words in those books.
Yes, I know.
Jesus Christ.
And apparently
it takes me like 4 months to read All Quiet on the Western Front. I don't have time for that.
Apparently after the third one, then nothing happens. Like Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons, a lot of people don't like those books.
Oh, yeah. World building.
Yeah, just more. Yeah. You've never heard of this house before. They're now the main characters.
This is why I need audiobooks.
Audiobooks are pretty successful now.
Put it on 1.5 or 1.75 speed and cruise through that 1.5 million words.
Oh man, imagine trying to listen to Game of Thrones on audiobooks. Yeah. Well, I have the books, but I refuse to start reading them until the series is finished, which means I'll probably never actually start them because I don't think he's going to finish them now.
Oh yeah,
I don't think he will because there's already an ending.
Yeah, but it's shit.
Okay.
I mean, anybody could write better than it was season 8. Literally anybody.
Okay.
You could ask a child just vague questions like, if there was a dragon and a city, what would happen? And that child will give you a better story than what was in season 8.
So you're really unhappy with it then?
It's shockingly bad.
Yeah.
It's overwhelmingly bad. It's overwhelming. It's yeah.
So what are you gonna do with your life now?
It's a fucking disgrace. I don't know, suicide.
Are you a Deadwood fan?
Never watched it.
Speaking of good speaking,
Deadwood's pretty good.
They speak in poetry. Every single line is like the rudest poem you've ever heard.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Deadwood, is that like a Western?
Yeah. Set in the Dakota Hills. Yeah. Just after the Civil War.
I'm sort of tired of Westerns.
Yeah, fair enough.
You know. Like, are you tired of Guy Ritchie movies?
Costume dramas, yeah, crime dramas, London crime dramas. Yeah, I'm pretty sick of them.
Oi,
come here, you slag.
In it, and that's a dumb word.
It makes the speaker sound very stupid. It does.
So back to that, to come full circle. If you're British, if you're English, if you're grown up in England, and you just point out the obvious, like, hey, we don't live in London, why are you speaking like that? Are you ostracized?
You know, probably. Because I didn't have a fake London accent because I went to a private school. So.
Were you posh?
No, it depends who I'm with. So if I'm with Mockney people, then I'm posh. But if I'm with posh people, I'm a pretentious oik. Oik. So I really can't win.
You guys really fucked this language up, didn't you?
So I've...
American is the purest form of English at this point.
So I really can't win. Like, it doesn't matter who I'm with. I don't quite... Unless I'm with one of the 1 in 9 people in the country who went to a run-of-the-mill private school. I'm kind of I'm always a little bit of an outsider. Like, I threw myself really into... When I went to a state college, I threw myself into the kind of dance music subculture because I knew if I want to be taken seriously, I have to know more about this than everyone else, just because of my voice. So I just nailed it. I got really, really into it. Started going out all the time, learning the names of all the tunes, and then
you do a lot of EDM stuff?
Yeah, they didn't call it EDM, but kind of similar idea.
Techno, right? Or
drum and bass.
Drum and bass. Okay, yeah. I feel dirty when I say EDM.
It's a horrible word
because the only people I've ever heard use EDM are people who don't listen to the music.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so when I grew up, it was always just called techno.
Yes.
No matter what it was, even if it was drum and bass, they call it techno.
Yeah.
And then every now and then you get somebody who would exclusively call it drum and bass, no matter what it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, American. I used to have a American housemate at uni, and she would be, "Could you turn down that goddamn techno music?" And we'd be like, "Lol, it's drum and bass. That means we don't have to turn it down."
God. Is it a sitcom? Is Simon Pegg there?
Oh yeah, it's like that is a bit like that Shaun of the Dead scene. It's not hip hop, it's electro, prick. That kind of thing.
Dude, Simon Pegg is the fucking best. Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies.
I heard that when it came out, it was the highest grossing British movie of all time. When it came out.
That'd be nice if it's true. I don't know if that's true, but that'd be good if it is.
Now that I've said that out loud, it sounds like bullshit.
It was a successful movie though, definitely, and it's much loved.
I think it's better than Hot Fuzz.
I think so. I also like Hot Fuzz as well,
yeah,
but I think Shaun of the Dead is better.
Also a great movie, yeah.
Shaun of the Dead's better. It's a near perfect movie. How would you make Shaun of the Dead better?
There's a girl in the garden. Well, let me ask you to translate some British. Okay. When he says you want anything at the store and he says cornetto, what does that mean?
Ah, okay. So that's one of my famous lines. A cornetto is like it's like an ice cream. It's a type of Wall's ice cream.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, in fact, he does bring him back a cornetto. You see,
so
him
when they're eating that shit, that's a cornetto.
That's a cornetto.
Okay, because I can't understand if he's saying one word or multiple words. It just sounds like a noise.
Cornetto. It's one word. They have an equivalent in China, but I don't know what it's called because it's in Chinese. In fact, in Hot Fuzz,
one of those two R&B ice creams.
One of those.
Those are sketchy.
In Hot Fuzz, they're eating cornettos in a police car at one point,
okay.
And in The World's End. Which is not a good movie.
Not funny at all.
Not a good movie.
Depressing as fuck.
Not a good movie.
Why is that?
It's so bad.
Why does that exist?
It's so bad. And the thing is as well, that cast has got so many good English actors, great English character actors, and the movie sucks dick. It's terrible.
But I don't understand it, because the whole time I'm watching The World's End, I'm like, is this trying to be funny?
Yeah, because, I mean, they flipped it, didn't they? So Simon Pegg, Nick Frost is the straight guy, Simon Pegg is the larger-than-life character. It doesn't work at all.
I don't even think that their intention was to be funny.
No, I think it probably was. I've only seen it once, and it was years ago.
I only saw it once as well. It was awful.
It's not funny.
The whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, this is depressing.
Yeah.
It is.
It's kind of like about wasted life, isn't it? Like Simon Pegg's character's wasted his life.
It always felt like they were about to be funny. It always felt like the movie was about to be funny, and then it became sad. Yeah. It was about to be funny, and then sad. About to be funny, and then sad.
Anyway, like in the final scene of that movie, when the world has ended, Nick Frost is standing on camera, and then you see a cornetto wrapper like stick to his face or something for a second and then blow off. So they call those movies the Cornetto trilogy.
Oh shit! I didn't know that.
But yeah, Shaun of the Dead, 10 out of 10. Hot Fuzz, probably 9 out of 10.
Yeah, easily.
World's End, like
2,
4.
1.
Yeah, like it's not a good movie.
You know, I have a theory.
Go on.
I think this is how you fix the whole movie industry and the video game industry. You ready?
Why is it broken?
Well, we can get to that, but something I hate about movies is that you've already paid for it, so they don't really give a shit if it's good or bad.
Right.
I think that the entire industry should exist off of donations given willingly after people have seen the movie. So I should be able to go to the theater, let's say it's going to be Endgame, see the movie, and then after the movie choose to pay for it or not.
It needs you need a higher class of human beings to make that work.
I disagree. Because look at how, the entire industry of YouTube is run by donations at this point, because AdSense doesn't exist for anyone anymore because of the ad apocalypse since Google bought YouTube. And so we're talking about countless content creators getting paid countless millions of dollars all by donations. And no one's going to say that the quality of this guy's video building a table is that of Endgame.
No.
Or the people watching it have the same commitment. And so of all the people watching Endgame, they would be a significant amount of people who are willing to put that $10 in a box or whatever they're asking for. And then this would force a degree of altruism from them where they genuinely do try to make something people enjoy. And especially with video games. I'm sick of being fucked over with video games.
I'm not much of a gamer. Have you got any particular games in mind?
Oh, well, if a good example, probably the greatest fucking of all time, is Fallout 76.
Oh, really?
Yeah, where it was... unspeakably broken. Yeah, at a certain point, people were putting together class action lawsuits to sue Bethesda for false advertising.
Because Fallout is like a post-apocalyptic RPG, right?
Yes, exactly.
So what's up with Fallout 76?
76 is like their multiplayer version, where it's like a small-scale MMO, and the game was just so utterly broken, unplayable, and shit that it's just a joke.
Okay.
And it's such an obvious cash grab, because when you see the game and you play the game and you look into all the problems that the game has, you recognize that they never had any intention of creating a playable product. Their intention was to quickly sell this like $100 product to millions of people.
$100?
Yep.
Fuck.
It's like $200 for the Game of the Year edition that comes with like a plastic helmet. And then the game is filled with microtransactions where your armor, if you want painted blue, it's $18. These are the kind of people you're dealing with now.
Right.
And so we need something to force our altruism from them. Otherwise, they're going to keep just bending people over.
Yeah, the microtransactions is dodgy, isn't it?
Yeah, extremely.
I know there was that game No Man's Sky just before I arrived in China that everyone was really looking forward to.
Yeah,
and
one of the greatest letdowns of all time.
Yeah, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah. Do you remember Spore?
Yeah, Sid Meier, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Dude, that was such an intense letdown for me. Since then, I've never allowed myself to care about a game before.
Okay.
A game since then, I mean.
Sure.
Because it was such a disappointment.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think about that? Seeing a movie for free and then pay for it.
Here's the problem. If it's something like Avengers Endgame, I'm probably not going to donate money, even if I enjoy it, because I'm going to think, fuck that, Disney don't need my money. Whereas some guy on YouTube, if he makes something that makes me think, and I enjoy it, then I'm more likely to donate, because I'll be like, well, that's just some guy sat in his bedroom.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
That would be the problem that I see with the system. But yeah, computer games is definitely dodgy. I think the microtransactions should be banned, frankly.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, because they just rob people.
Yeah. Especially loot boxes, which kicks into a gambling addiction. You know,
true.
There's a U.S. senator who's trying to make loot boxes illegal in games because it's just gambling.
Yeah.
It really is. And so people are dumping their entire life savings into these gambling games. And it's not that the United States government gives a fuck if people gamble. It's that they need to start getting
taxes.
They need to start getting those gambling taxes on these gaming companies. Yeah. Well, what if you pay for the movie and then as you walk out of the movie, you have an option to get your money back right there on the spot?
Okay.
You know. I think that a lot of payment comes down to convenience because people are truly that lazy.
Yeah.
I think that if you put $10 into a machine, then see the movie, and then when you come out of the movie, all it requires is to go back and press.
Some people won't.
Press 3 buttons to get your $10 back. I think a significant percentage of people will think to themselves, well, the movie was pretty good. They can have my money.
Okay, I think that's probably true. Like, people are definitely lazy when it comes to money. In Thailand, if you buy something at duty free, you pay full whack, they give you a receipt, and you then take that receipt to another desk, and then they give you the tax back. I was like, so I just ended up paying full price.
That happens all the time, though. I can't understand why people can't. I don't know about you, but I always think of time relative to what I'm currently being paid per hour. And so here in China, it's easy to get $40 or $50 an hour for your work. And so no matter what I'm doing, I always think of it in monetary terms. When someone says, hey, you want to go have lunch in Hankou? I'm like, well, it's going to take me an hour to get there, an hour to get home, and then an hour for lunch. That's $150. You're asking me to expend $150 worth of time to come have eggs and tomatoes with you. No, I'm good.
Eggs and tomatoes. Shit.
It's not that bad. I just fucking can't eat it every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like eggs. I like tomatoes, but come on.
Yeah, it's kind of boring. Yeah. What is your favorite Chinese food?
It would probably be. You ever have like that slow cooked pork shoulder? And they usually have it at the big dining banquets with like the rotating table, and it's got like that mushy slow cooked fat all over it. That stuff's amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that Shao Kao or hot pot?
What's Shao Kao?
Barbecue.
Barbecue? It's alright.
American barbecue is so different to Chinese barbecue.
It's so much better. It's ridiculous.
It's better, I agree.
Well, 99% of what you get here isn't even meat. It's like some kind of horrible, fucking, sketchy substance.
That's not to ask.
Yeah, exactly. You're lucky if it's sewer rat.
The thing is, though, when I took some of my students, there used to be, it's not there anymore, a really nice Arabic restaurant in Jidalco, and I took some of my students there, and they have barbecue, and the barbecue is real
legit
bits of meat, and the students just didn't like it. They were just like, no, don't rate. It's not really meat. It's like, no, that is meat.
Really, you just never seen it before.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things. You have to go to a Muslim restaurant here because they have halal if you want real meat. Yeah. Like God forces them to eat real meat, and so you can be comfortable eating that. There used to be a really good Arabic restaurant here in Gwangju as well that did great shawarma. They closed down a long time ago.
So
yeah, it was great. It was in like a toasted, wrap and everything. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's the real shit. I miss that so much about London. Turkish food, Arabic food.
I miss sandwiches. I miss high quality bread with good deli meats and deli cheese and
something England does not do well is delis. America does them very, very well. Every shop in New York's got a deli.
Yeah, great shit. And like $1 slices of pizza.
Yep. Yeah, I can't argue with that. Yeah, I think America is really underrated for food around the world. I think people just don't understand American food. It's extremely diverse. It's extremely complex, and it is all very, very bad for you, but it's also good.
It's so good.
It's so delicious. Yeah.
I love living in DC. You can get anything from anywhere in the world. You get high quality. There's this Mexican restaurant, which is the best in the world I've ever tasted. And it's actually in a gas station. And so the people that I take there, especially from like other parts of the country or from other parts of the world, even if they visit, they're always like, what the fuck is this? Like, are you sure about this? Because you have to go into the gas station, and in the gas station is a place that's just called Taco Bar. And then it's run by a family of Mexican people. And I talked to the boss one day, and apparently his family's like from the mountains of Mexico, and it's really difficult to get home. It's like a real trek. But their food is unbelievably good. It's shockingly good.
Yeah, I just recently talking about places I would like to go on a food holiday, and I said Mexico. My friend who knows a bit more about Latin America than me said go to America.
Yeah.
Real Mexican food is not what you want. You want the Tex-Mex.
Yeah, you also don't want to be killed.
No, Mexico don't like that in certain areas.
Mexico's pretty bad.
Okay.
I mean, it's significantly worse than when I went there. I went there twice when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And it was pretty bad then. Okay. And it's significantly worse now.
Shit.
Yeah. Mexico City is one of the highest murder rates in the world.
I heard that.
Yeah. And apparently it has one of the highest populations in the world as well. I didn't know that. It's like 20 million people.
It's the highest in North America, definitely.
Highest in North America.
It's definitely the highest in North America.
I'm trying to get away from people, get away from human beings. I'm trying to just go to the mountains of West Virginia, brew moonshine, grow a long beard, shoot anything that looks delicious.
Sounds right. Weather like in West Virginia?
It's pretty nice. It snows a lot in the wintertime, and it's hot in the summertime.
Perfect.
There's, Americans love hating other parts of America.
I think that's very normal. In fact, in China, it's really unusual that they don't slag off.
Yeah.
Like they live in Wuhan, they don't hate Changsha.
But Hubei is such a big province. All the provinces here are huge. West Virginia is tiny. Maryland is tiny.
Sure.
Like you can drive on the West Coast for an hour and go through 3 states, and like people in Maryland will be like, "Oh, West Virginia, they have terrible weather." It's like it's 20 miles away. It's the exact same weather. Like when it's raining here, it's raining there as well. Yeah.
Something I really want to do in the States? I really want to walk the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah, it's a long trail.
It's like a long, lifelong dream of mine. I'll never do it, but I always...
I did an Appalachian trip when I was in Boy Scouts. Okay. Like 28 miles on it in 3 days. And
cool.
It was dope. I got a medal for it. Appalachian Trail. Yeah, camping on the trail.
I'd be so scared of bears, though. That's the problem.
There are some bears. We had a bear in our backyard in New Jersey. A black bear. And black bears are much more dangerous than brown bears.
So I'm told.
They're much more aggressive. And with a brown bear, you shouldn't be aggressive. You should be kind of passive. With a black bear, you should be super aggressive. You should try to scare it off because if it looks at you and is like, that guy looks good, he's just gonna come eat you.
And they do eat people.
Yeah, they'll eat anything. Yeah, just carry a gun, definitely.
Well, apparently bear spray is more effective than a gun. Like, it shoots like a baseball of pepper.
Well, I've been bear sprayed.
How'd that go?
Well, I'm not a bear, and like it was pretty debilitating. But like, I would say I still had like maybe 10 or 20% function.
Okay.
Definitely blind. Definitely can't see anything.
How long were you blind for?
Couple hours.
That would scare the shit out of me.
Well, I thought so. I had a pistol. Okay, I didn't have it on me, and I was at a street corner and I was looking over my right shoulder and I heard like a truck sound, like a engine revving to my left. And as I looked left, they drove past and bear maced me across the eyes.
Why?
Just cause.
Oh, man.
And they bear maced a bunch of people on the street. I know it was bear mace because they were hitting people from like 20 feet away, and bear mace sprays very far. And I thought, I don't know anything about mechanics. I'm not like a car guy. So when it hit me, it just felt like boiling oil on my face. I thought that they had like rigged their car to spit boiling oil. And I immediately was like, if I had my pistol on me, I would have just shot both these guys. Because why not?
Yeah, right.
Well, I'm blind now and my face is melting, so I'm just going to unload a clip into the back of their truck and hope I killed them. But I didn't have my gun.
Fortunately.
I guess so, fortunately. Yeah. This was in Montana, though, so I think the cops...
I'm now blind and firing my gun at a moving target.
Well, my plan was to run into the road to stand directly behind their car because it was just a long, straight road. Okay. And then it would just be straight shots. But it was Montana, so I think even if I shot them, the cops would have been on my side. Like, yeah, they bear maced you? Yeah, of course shoot them. It's fucking Montana. Yeah. But the ambulance came, they washed my eyes out, still couldn't see anything, so they drove me home, which is illegal. And they're like, don't tell anybody, so now I'm telling people. And I got home, and it's oil-based, so water doesn't work. So you have to use dish soap.
In your eyes?
Everything that gets sprayed.
Eesh.
And so I spent like 3 hours in my kitchen, basically laying down on the countertop with my head in the sink.
Oh, man.
And I just went through like an entire bottle of dish soap, just rubbing my head for like 20 minutes and then rinse it all off and then do it again and rinse it off and do it again. And then I took a really cold shower for like an hour. Just water. And then went to bed still in excruciating pain. But the point is, I find it hard to believe that would stop a bear.
Well, man. Don't know, it sounds pretty shit.
It's pretty shit, yeah. And their sense of smell is like 100,000 times stronger, so I'm sure it's much more painful for them. And I've seen a bear get bear maced, and they don't like it. However...
Might just piss him off.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Also, it weighs like 1,000 pounds, so it's running toward you. It's not like its momentum doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So if you bear mace it, and it's less than 10 feet away, it's still going to get to you. And even if it can't see, it can still rip you to pieces. Yeah. So I'd rather pull a gun out and kill it than just upset it.
The thing, I don't know how to use a gun, so if I pull the gun out, I'll probably end up shooting myself.
Holding it backwards?
Why isn't it working?
How does this work? Yeah, well, also, most guns are going to be ineffective against a
I was about to say, against a bear, I think you need a pretty big gun, right?
Well, you need something that pierces. Yeah. You need like an armor piercing effect. Because a large caliber will just
bounce off it. Well,
it doesn't bounce off, it just gets stuck in all the meat. And if you want to get into the organs, like you basically have to get a heart or a lung shot to take something down really fast.
Sure.
Their skull is beveled, and so like a rifle bullet will bounce off their skull.
Fuck.
And so I heard that the way the Alaskans do it is they'll have a shotgun, and the first shot they'll load bird shot, and then they'll load slugs after that. And then when there's a bear, they shoot it in the eyes to blind it with the bird shot, and then they'll load all the slugs into one shoulder so it can't run. Okay. And then they can get away. So it's easier to cripple it than to kill it.
Okay.
Yeah. They're brutal animals, man.
Yeah, bears are scary.
Yeah. Have you seen videos of them climbing a tree? Like that archer guy?
No.
There's a video on YouTube of this guy hunting bears with a bow and arrow. And like the bear notices him, I guess. And he's like 30 feet up in a tree. And it's a very dense forest, so there's trees all around him. The bear runs over to the base of the tree right next to him and then runs all the way up the tree until it's like 5 feet above him. Oh, and he's recording this with his phone. And it gets up the tree in like 1.5 seconds. It's like up the tree. Whoa. And it's right next to him, like looking down on him. And then it climbs down the tree and shoots it. But goddamn, that thing it runs up the tree. Runs up. So yeah, you can't get away from bears. Swims faster than you, runs faster than you, climb trees.
Apparently they can't run downhill.
Well, their back, especially grizzly bears, their back legs are longer than their front legs. Okay. But that's horseshit. I've seen a documentary where a bear caught a bunny rabbit, and the bunny rabbit had like a 50-foot head start, running downhill. All right. Do you know how fucking fast a rabbit is? It wasn't even a bunny rabbit; it was a hare.
Right.
A forest rabbit.
Sure.
And the bear not only caught it, just swipes it. Catches a fucking rabbit running downhill. No. You're never getting away.
You're not getting away.
So your only option is to kill it.
Is to fight.
Yeah, exactly. Fight. Well, while I was in Montana, they legalized spear hunting.
Wow.
And so I was always asking my friends.
Take out a bear with a spear. If you did that, that'd be some man points.
Well, how many people do you need? How many, you and your friends, how many do you need before you feel comfortable going after a bear with spears?
At least 30.
30?
Yeah, Jesus Christ, man, my friends. Going out there with them.
A bunch of fat alcoholics. Yeah. Well, I'm thinking more of like the Montana folk, mountain folk.
Okay.
I think 10 of them and maybe 2 dogs.
Alright.
And you take a bear. And maybe somebody would die. Maybe a couple people would be mauled. Yeah. But that's alright. That's the chance you take. You got a 1 in 10 chance of being killed. Maybe a 3 in 10 chance of being mauled. I'd take those chances.
Bad odds, man.
Those are pretty bad odds, yeah, you're right. Maybe bring a few more dogs.
Yeah, shit. Okay, right, I better make a move.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's been a pleasure though, dude.
Well. Absolutely, thank you for coming on, man.
Cheers.
Anytime you want to come back, let me know.
Alright, for the next 2 months.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you everybody for listening. Another episode of Bullshit and Video Games. Do all that stuff down below. Like, share, subscribe, comment, blah, blah, blah. Catch you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.
How am I gonna find man I'm supposed to be? The man I am ain't the man